Welcome everybody to day 2 of the limited level ups set review for Murders at Karlov Manor. We're doing the rares, the mythics, and the list as well today, and special guests, which is kind of like a secondary list. We'll get to that when we get to it. But we're gonna cover all the cards that we didn't cover yesterday in part 1 of the review. We're gonna be starting with multicolor cards this time around. Going to Wooburg, there's like 3 multicolor cards for each color pair, so that's kind of cool. Before we jump in, Mark's got some words about the rares and the mythics in this set. So I'm going to pass it over to Mark so he can give us what his thoughts are.
No, I just first of all wanted to thank you for, the amazing work you do, like the gargantuan task of getting everything we did yesterday up on YouTube so quickly, all split up by segment, and then preparing the slides, the audio, the spreadsheets, and everything. So, thank you so much for that and for having me here. It's always a pleasure. There's a special guest sheet, but having a special guest that doesn't have to do any real work is always a nice benefit as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to stop you right there because I'm going to also call out some community members that really helped out. Jason, LTG, we've had Jason on the show before. And 2 patrons actually, Mike Man and Zachary, really helped out just the behind the scenes stuff, getting the spreadsheets and slides so I don't have to do a million things. They're very good at coding things. So it's really been helpful. So I just wanted to shout out those people. Anyways, back to you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? While we're doing the award ceremony here, let's also give a shout out to is it Provencher? Is that I'm saying that right?
Yes,
for all the work that Mike's done on the play boosters and making sure your Discord community is well educated when it comes to this stuff. So just to summarize from yesterday, I noticed even on YouTube there was people asking like, why didn't we talk about things like archetypes and kind of breakdowns there? And you do cover that on an early podcast, so I assume that'll be coming up soon.
Sure will be.
But I also think it's worth mentioning that something that WotC's consciously trying to do with play boosters is actually make sure that more of the commons are just generically good and not for one specific archetype. So more of the archetype specific stuff will be found in the uncommons, and a lot of the commons now will be allowed to be played in multiple different shells. At least I think that's the goal. So I do think it's going to be a little bit more hazy when it comes to archetypes when you're doing like skeletons or when you're trying to figure out what you should be drafting on day 1. I think it's almost like having a bit more free will when you're going into a draft instead of first picking a rare and saying, okay, I'm just going to put the blinders on and do this thing now.
Yeah.
I think the goal is to make it a little bit more of a flexible experience.
Yep. I think so too. And I think that's good. That's been something that I was a little bit disappointed about from last year's worth of drafts where it was a little bit hard to pivot into certain decks when you started one down one path. I think, there's a lot of more bleed amongst the archetypes. So you're going to get, which is really good. It means that, you're going to get decks that are going to look different from each other draft to draft, even in the same color pair.
Yeah, so I guess the last thing I want to mention is kind of as a avid drafter going into this portion of the set review, like from an ideal standpoint, what would I hope for, right? Because we saw yesterday, we saw red was really good, we saw white was really good. We also saw that there's a lot of multicolored cards and not a ton of fixing.
Yep.
So a bit of stress there. So going into today, I'll read ahead a bit. There are a lot of multicolor gold cards as well. So from a drafting perspective, I think ideally you want the gold cards to be the most powerful ones because those are the ones you have to do the most work for. The monocolored rares to be slightly weaker, and then I would hope that the weaker colors from yesterday would get slightly stronger rares, right? So like the Sultai colors, you hopefully want to be a little bit stronger than the red and white ones. And we'll kind of see as we go into that that's not 100% the case, but that's something just to note. And then also that there's a good mix of cards that are supporting the main archetypes and cards that are kind of letting you do something else without just being straight, oh, this card's an A+ and this card's an F.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to lead into that because I think that this set is really well designed from a rare and mythic perspective. And as we get further into the list of cards today, I think it's worth pointing out what I think what a good job they've done with the set.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mentioned a second ago that each color pair has 3 rares. There's actually 2 rares and a mythic, I believe, for each color pair. And it's not just like banger, banger, banger. It's like, yeah, pretty good card and kind of weird spell that leads you in a slightly different direction than you might normally. And then like maybe the mythic's really good. So yeah, a good mix of things in there. Anything else before we jump in?
Yeah, there's one final question I wanted to ask you, which is something I was thinking about last night.
Yeah.
So we talked about how there's going to be a lot of trading going on, but I haven't really got anywhere I plan to go with this. I just wanted to ask you your opinion.
Yeah.
Let's say you play a disguised gadget technician
Hmm.
face down on turn 3, and your opponent attacks their disguised creature into your technician.
Right.
Are you like, just obviously context
Of
matters,
course.
but do you think you're going to want to block?
I think that, yeah, like my answer is going to be mostly like, well, it depends, but I'll give you the specifics of it depends. Like, do I have a 2-drop to pair with flipping out my Gadget Technician for 2 mana next turn? If not, I'm a little more likely to block. Am I on the play? That might be something that, I'm a little bit less likely to block if they attack. I guess, it's going to be a little bit different there. But I to give you a straight answer, I would say yes. But I had low confidence on that. And the exact situation is to give you a straight answer, I would say yes, I would probably block with my Gadget Technician more times than not.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of close decisions you'll have to
Mm-hmm.
make in this set for like whether you want to play to the board or play for value. And so I know I said there was going to be a lot of trading yesterday, but I realized more and more that if you can stick a creature, like if you decide not to block with your Gadget Technician, and then the next turn you pass with 4 mana up, there's actually so much you could represent having. Like there's a ton of instants plus all the creatures that your disguised things could be,
Yeah,
that it's not that easy for your opponent to tack into open mana in this set, because
no,
there's
it's
so
not.
many things you could have.
There is.
So maybe there is some hope for there being, a bit of a slightly slower format, but yeah, just something I was thinking about last night that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's definitely going to be one of those things to like keep your eye out for, like with the like what the good play patterns or the right play patterns are once we actually start jumping into the set. Yeah, first card here. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, we have officious interrogation, which is basically what I just did to you. It's blue and white for an instant, and this spell costs blue-white more to cast for each target beyond the first. Choose any number of target players. Investigate X times, where X is the total number of creatures those players control.
Okay, so weird multiplayer wording aside, it's either 2 mana, you investigate for the amount of creatures you control, or 4 mana, blue, blue, white, white, you do it for all creatures in the battlefield. And
well, you can choose just them if you're
true.
just,
Yes,
it doesn't
sorry,
have to be
that's
just
true.
you for blue white, right? Yeah, it's whoever has more creatures, I would assume.
And it's an interesting effect because if you have a lot of clues, like clues don't necessarily play that well in multiples, right? Because it's like, all right, crack my clue, but then I draw a card, and I'm crack my clue. But if you make, let's just say the ceiling of this, like you make like 6 clues, you're not necessarily going to even have time or want to be able to crack all those clues. So this doesn't quite scale linearly. And the interesting thing I think to ask about this is, like you said, Mark, how often are we going to be trading? Because if boards are small, if we're trading off pretty often, then you're not going to be making that many clues off this thing. And when it comes down to it, like 2 mana to make 3 clues, that's not that great of a deal.
Okay, so hear me out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you play the 4 black 5/6 that when you crack a clue they get, or when you clue sacrifice they get 2 poison counters.
Yeah.
And then you play 2 of the red 1/3s that when you sacrifice a clue you add red mana, and then you cast this and you win the game. It's so easy.
We're on the first card and we're already cooking real hard here. Okay, so real talk here. And I mean, not to discount that was real talk, because somebody's gonna do that. But like your average case scenario for this card for officious interrogation, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not very high on this.
No, I think it's like more. Not if there was things that really paid you off for having artifacts, and there's a few things here and there, like the Is It artifact deck, although this is blue whites, but there are mono blue payoffs where like I'm making a lot of artifacts. Then if you care about the artifacts making a bunch of just permanents, just material, then sure. But if you're looking at this as a card draw spell, I think there's just better options.
Yeah, I was gonna give this like a D.
Yeah, I was gonna give it D plus just because it has reasonable upside in some games.
It's got a gold symbol, gets a plus.
Great, yeah. Next one here is a mythic, an Azorius mythic, Alquist Proft Master Sleuth. So this is 1 blue-white for a 3/3 legendary creature. It's a human detective. Has vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, you investigate. And it's got a ability that some longtime players might recognize. X white blue. Tap it and sacrifice a clue. You draw X cards and you gain X life. So it casts Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, it makes sense that the best detective would be able to turn a clue into a revelation.
Yeah,
there's
boom.
some flavor there. Yeah,
Excellent.
But this thing's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, just like it, just straight up 3 mana Vigilance Investigate on ETB for a 3/3. That would be a great card. Like we'd rate that quite
Yep.
highly. And then tack on this. Well, if it sticks around, like the beauty of this is it doesn't have to stick around. There's this dream of like, okay, sure, you can draw a bunch of cards off of it, and if it does stick, great. You know, once you get to 6-7 mana, you'll probably crack this thing, or sorry, crack a clue. But I would rate the 3 mana 3/3 Vigilance Investigate as like a B or a B plus or something like that. So I think Elkos probably gets in the A- range.
Yeah, I kind of want to give it an A. Like it's a 3/3 for 3 is huge.
Yeah, when I originally read this, I thought it had to sacrifice itself. I'm like, okay, but no, you can just keep casting Sphinx's Revelation if you want to. Not that again, like the card draw has diminishing returns, but yeah, no, I'm in for it. We can just give Elkos an A.
Okay, this is the way that you get that 2/5 hexproof thing activated.
Yeah,
right? You
draw
just fly through your library.
Exactly, yeah, and chat points out there's no hat on this detective, so what gives? I don't know. What do we have next?
Next is Ezram, Agency Chief. 1 white, blue, so 5 total mana for a 5/5 Archon or Legendary Archon Detective. As he or she, I can't really tell. Who knows? It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, investigate twice. And the ability is pay 1, sacrifice an artifact. Ezram gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Hexproof until end of turn.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So this is, I think, to a little bit of what you were saying, good design in the sense that it is a pretty busted card, but it's 1 white, blue. Like you can't splash this. This is only going in one deck. But yeah, I mean the card is pretty absurd. Like even if it's got the same kind of thing going on as the last card, even if this you do play it on 5 and it just dies right away, you've investigated twice. And I think the play pattern most likely is you're going to hold it till 6 if you can, so that you can threaten the hexproof on when the turn you play it.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about how much I'm going to enjoy all these rares, and this is actually the one exception. Like, I really wish this thing was a mythic.
Yeah.
This thing is insane. This is probably just an A+, despite the casting cost. So,
I agree. Yeah.
You know, I like seeing less of these, but the good news is there's not too many more of quite this power level.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll just give an A to Ezram and move on, because we got a lot of cards to cover. Next up, we've got Teysa, Opulent Oligarch. 2 white-black for a legendary creature.
One white-black.
Sorry, 1 white-black for a human legendary creature. It's a 2/3 death touch, and it says at the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. And also, whenever a clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. This ability triggers only once each turn, though.
Yeah, so the first ability fuels the second, and the second ability fuels the first. So you kind of just need to get the ball rolling from one of those abilities, and then it kind of just keeps going and going. And you can use that second ability once on your turn and once on the opponent's turn.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that just it doesn't say once on your turn. Yeah, so I think most of the time, white's got cheap evasive creatures. Black has some creatures. Maybe we won't comment on the quality of black's commons and uncommons again today, but I think that in a white deck, it shouldn't be too hard to deal combat damage to the opponent. And like you said, once you do it once, it just keeps on chaining, and yeah, you keep on going. So card looks really good. Not busted. Like it just dies through a removal spell, and it doesn't put immediate pressure on you, but it's the kind of rare where it's like, yeah, I have to deal with that pretty quickly.
Yeah, like a A-.
Yeah, I would give A- to Teysa.
Yeah, and A- is the exact level I want my rares to be.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with this.
Exactly. All right, what's up next?
Next is Treacherous Greed. 1 white-black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature that dealt damage this turn, and then draw 3 cards. Each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life.
Yeah, weird one. So it's a 3 mana, draw 3, drain 3, and you have to be so black-white's thing is like these small little creatures, and of course you're not sacking a big green creature or something, but like you always like to point out, Mark, sacking something is always a cost, even if you think even if it's just a small thing. You could be using that for attacking, blocking, whatever. So is there any way to like cheat this? I guess first strike is kind of a way, but there's not a lot of first strike that we've seen. Like you can first strike, creature will die in combat, and then sack it before your creature dies. This would be a great card if damage was still on the stack, but we don't live in that world.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, what you have to do is have a creature that dealt damage to your opponent Or you could have like a 2/3 that bounced off another 2/3. That would work. You know, your creature still. This doesn't have to deal damage to the player for this to qualify. Finicky but powerful.
Yeah, but I think like deceptively hard to turn on.
Yeah.
And even when you can turn it on, like it's not like you can just choose which creature to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice the one that was able to turn it on, right? It's not like as long as you're able to deal damage this turn, sacrifice any creature. So I think it's just too many hoops to jump through.
Yeah. And you know, just to be clear, yeah, just chat saying no need to deal damage to the opponent, damage to the creature. Yeah, we're hesitant about it even with that. Like that is a lesser hoop to jump through, but it's still a hoop. So yeah, I don't know. Where's the general power level for this? I don't think you're gonna be taking this too early. It's more like, okay, you see this mid pack late, and you're like, okay, I could maybe make this work if I'm already black white.
I'm maybe I'll ask you your grade first because I think I'm gonna go lower than you.
Yeah, I want to. It's it's a card I want to like. I think if your deck has a lot of cheap flyers, like the white cheap flyers, there's a few tokens here and there. I do think it's a pretty good card. Like if you're sacrificing not a whole card, or a novice inspector, right? Something like that. I think there are enough things where you're not actually sacrificing a whole card. If you've got enough of those, I think it's like a C plus B minus level card. But I would just say on average, it's like a D.
Okay. Yeah, I was somewhere in the D to D plus range.
Yeah.
So
yeah, tough one. Not to say you can't make it work, but it's just pretty tough. So the grade reflects that. We got a Planeswalker up next. The only one in the set. Kaya, Spirit's Justice. This is 4 mana, 2 black white for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. Kaya's got a static ability here. Whenever one or more creatures you control and or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among those, and until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. So you exile a card for collecting evidence, one of your clues becomes a copy of that creature or something. Any other way you can exile from the grave, that works too. I should also say, by the way, I didn't mention this, but Kai is a mythic. We have rare Planeswalkers these days, but we got a mythic here. And then she's also got 3 activated abilities. +2, Surveil 2, and then exile a card from the grave. So going to trigger the first ability and fuel the first ability. +1, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. -2, exile target creature you control. For each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls as well.
Yeah, so when I first read this card, like I read the 3 abilities, and I was like, okay, it's like a +1, a -1, and a -5.
Yeah.
Because like you're so used to seeing that on Planeswalkers. And then I clocked at what the loyalty counts were, like +2, +1, and -2.
It's a lot.
And I realized this thing's actually really good.
Yeah. It is a lot. It's a lot of loyalty. Like whenever you have a +2 ability on a reasonably cheap Planeswalker, gets out of hand pretty quickly. And just that +1, like, some Planeswalkers would have like -1 to make a spirit. This is a +1 ability. Starting at 3 loyalty is like the balancing factor here, right? I think that's 3 loyalty for a reason. So like you're doing a bunch of cool finicky stuff here, and I do think the finicky stuff actually, like, it's gonna work. It's gonna do something some amount of the time, right? Like having a hasty flyer or something is gonna be good. And then the default ability, if you don't have all that stuff going on, like if you just play this on turn 4, making spirits, yeah, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, not a busted Planeswalker, but a really good one. I think I would put her in the B+ range, maybe even A-.
I was gonna go A-.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'll join you there. Yeah, and Chad also says, just FYI, the +1 says a graveyard, but the static ability says your graveyard. So there is a little bit of trickiness there. All right, we've got Boros gold cards now. War Leader's Call is our first one. This is 1 red-white for an enchantment at rare. Creatures get +1/+1, or creatures you control get +1/+1. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. So you staple a Impact Tremors to a Glorious Anthem, and boom, you got a card.
And those are 2 pretty nice cards to combine together.
Yeah.
Especially when Red-White's theme is like going wide and making a bunch of tokens.
This thing's really good. Like,
yeah.
Like aside from the fact that it's better Glorious Anthem, it's easier to cast as well because 1 white is generally harder to cast than 1 white-red in an unlimited deck. Yeah, this card's great. I think it's just another really good card. I would just give this an A probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would give Glorious Anthem like a B+, and I think that damage ability pushes it over the edge to be like a good few notches better.
Yes.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, we got Agris Koss here, Spirit of Justice, 2 red white for a 2/4 Spirit Detective at Mythic. It's got double stripe and vigilance, and whenever it enters, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose up to 1 target creature. If it's suspected, exile the creature. Otherwise, you suspect the creature.
Yeah, it's kind of like flavor-wise, it's kind of funny that this thing can suspect itself.
Yeah,
like,
true.
It like comes in, it's like, it was me.
Yeah, it was me all along.
Okay.
Well, he's a ghost, so.
But very powerful ability, and of course it's an upside that it can target itself, because you
Mhm.
might want to give it menace, and then that does trigger, like, it has an attack trigger, so that you might be more likely to be able to attack with menace later. Double strike vigilance 2/4 for 4 is already great, and the ability is great too. Like, this card's just great.
Yeah, and like I think the natural play pattern is just you're going to suspect something your opponent controls, and then when you attack, you exile it on the next combat, as long as you're not taking too much damage. But yeah,
It's kind of like, again, from the flavor perspective, it's kind of nice that you suspect their creature, and then their creature, like, because it now has menace and can't block, will like attack you. So it's like
Yeah.
on the run, and then you're gonna get rid of it.
That is good.
But
Yeah.
it's just kind of cool how they've seeded these things. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
it's
but
true.
I think this card's great. Like,
No.
another A.
Yeah, I think another A. It's funny, we're like, oh, there's not too many A's, but we're going through the gold card, so yeah, another A. But it's also A's that are just like answerable by removal spells, right? It's not like, oh man, like what am I ever gonna do? We've got
And the removal,
Yeah,
removal is good in this set. It's just that, like, because of all the ward 2 on the morphs, we maybe knocked some of the removal down a little bit.
Right.
There is good removal in this set, so I do think it'll balance itself fairly well.
Yep, so do I. Aurelia, the Law Above, is up next. 3 red white for a 4/4 legendary creature angel at rare. It's got flying, vigilance, and haste. And it says whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. That's either player. And whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia, the Law Above, deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, this card's also just excellent.
Yep.
Like, red white is. I wish the red white rares were a little toned down.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at least they're not totally busted, but they're all excellent.
Yeah, I think so much of the time this is just going to be 4/4 flying dragon that attacks and draws a card when it comes down. Like I think most board states are going to draw your card, and
has vigilance.
And has vigilance, yeah.
And then what, your opponent's supposed to attack you with just 2 creatures and get past
Right.
your dragon?
Exactly. Yeah, I think
Crazy.
A or A plus, basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna go A, because again, like, if it gets murdered, it hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Like, Dice the Doomblade is still a check,
Yep.
right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll go A for Aurelia as well. All right, green white gold cards. What do we have first?
we have Trostani 3 Whispers, which the cost on this one's interesting. It's green, white, plus a Selesnya hybrid. So 3 mana can either be green, green, white, or green, white, white. It is a 4/4 legendary dryad with 3 abilities. The first one, 1 and a green, target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. Second one, Selesnya hybrid mana, target creature gains Vigilance until end of turn. And third one, 2 and a white, target creature gains Double Strike until end of turn.
Yeah, I think it just dominates combat in multiple ways, right? Like,
yes.
You have the combo of Double Strike, Death Touch, right? Or your creature's always gonna win the combat. You can give Vigilance. You have Threat of Activation on all of this. You on a 3 mana 4/4. Yeah, not a lot to hate, and it is still, like, it doesn't quite look like it, but it is a splashable card if you like, like a white or a green, and then you're splashing the white and green blue deck or something like that. Like, that is certainly something you can do. Although you lose out on the activated ability somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about how we reviewed a lot of cards, and I said I'm going to be doing a lot of splashing in this set, like in either multicolor or monocolor or regular decks.
Mm-hmm.
And already going through some of these rares, you can kind of see why. But yeah, like, if you're playing mono green, you're still going to pick Trostani and splash it, even if you only cast it on turn 5. Still going to be excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I was going on about the 4+ mana creature slot yesterday and saying how, you really would appreciate an enter the battlefield ability on cards like that. On your cheaper cards, you don't need that, but that's something that's really good on your cheaper cards is just being, like, huge for their mana cost. Because, like, a huge 5 mana 7/7. Okay, sure, it's not that much better than a 5/5, but a 3 mana 4/4, like, that's huge on curve, right? So just forget about the abilities. That's just big on curve. Not going to die to Galvanize up from your opponent. I think Trostani is just another A, straight A.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. The hits don't stop here. Tolsimir, Midnight's Light, 2 green, white for a 3/2. It's got lifelink. This is a rare. When Tolsimir enters the battlefield, you create Voya Fenstalker, a legendary 5/5 green and white wolf creature token with trample. Whenever a wolf you control attacks, if Tolsimir attacked this combat, target creature an opponent controls blocks that wolf this combat if able.
Yeah, so this passes the Doomblade check, like with
It does.
flying colors.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, you killed.
very, very good.
If they killed the wolf, you're still left with a 3/2 lifelink, which really ain't that bad. And then, yeah, if you untap with this thing, you probably don't mind sending Tolsimir in. It's probably going to trade. Like, there's not... I can't imagine there's going to be too many things that just straight up eat it. Although, definitely possible. And even still, you can assign the wolf to say, you're going to block the wolf instead of Tolsimir.
Yeah, like if they have a 4/4,
Yeah.
the wolf takes the 4/4.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You still get to get in with this thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, this one might be an A+. I think, like, just all the things together, like stabilizing in multiple ways, giving 2 bodies. When you untap, you can start taking over. I think I'm going to give Tolsimir an A+.
Sure. You talked me into it. I was going to give it another A, but I'll follow you.
Relive the Past here. This is a rare sorcery. 5 green, white, 7 mana. Return up to 1 target artifact card, up to 1 target land card, and up to 1 target non-order enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And they're also 5/5 elemental creatures in addition to their other types.
Yeah, this is the kind of build around I like. This is sweet.
Yeah, so you want the escape tunnel, right? The Evolving Wilds variants. You want that so you can get a land in your graveyard, although there's obviously self-mill and stuff too. You want... What aura, like, sorry, what enchantments are we looking for? I guess cases, that works, but those don't often, they don't always go to the graveyard naturally. Is there anything else in mind you have for enchantments?
I do think you probably have to be milling yourself, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of enchantments in the set, but most of them are designed to stick around, right? Like there's the Oblivion Ring, there's 2 Oblivion Rings, there's the white Oblivion Ring and there's the green-white Oblivion Ring. There's auras, but I guess auras don't actually work for this, so that's part of the reason why, I guess, so they don't make it easy for you. So the only way you can do it is, I guess, with cases, O-rings. Is there anything else? There's probably a few out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few things that we're not thinking about right now. And then artifacts, there's artifact creatures here and there. So this is like a true, like a build around card. I don't think you're gonna first pick it and be like, oh, let's do it. But you get this like 4th, 5th pick or something, and you're like, okay, like I'll take that. There's nothing amazing in the pack. I can see if I can make this work. Is that kind of your vibe on the card? You feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, and like there's also for artifacts, there's some artifact creatures, but there's also like the equipments, like the haunch you might play with this. Which is an easy way to get itself to the graveyard too. So, and like the wrench or whatever the white one is, like not great, but you could see it coming together. So this will be like, it's going to get a build around grade, and it's not going to be in the A range either, but I'm still looking forward to trying this.
Yeah, it's a cool rare. Like this is what you want from your build around rares. Like it's not just busted, so everybody's just going to take it and do the thing. And it does require work, but it pays you off. Like 7 mana, get 3 5/5s or 2 5/5s. Like that's going to be pretty good. So I'll defer to you. What do you want to give this as a build around grade?
I'll give it a build around B+.
Yeah, okay.
Like, because I do think if you get 2 things fairly regularly, you're still pretty happy with this.
Right, that's the
and
thing.
If you get
like
3, it's incredible.
The land isn't that hard, like with self mill or lands that go to the graveyard. But the other 2 are a little bit like you have to do some, bend over backwards a little bit. But that's the nice thing, is that you don't have to get all 3. If you just get 2, I think you're pretty happy. Cool. We got blue-black gold cards now. Drag the Canals first. This is blue-black for an instant at rare. Create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token. If a creature died this turn, you gain 2 life, surveil 2, and investigate.
Yeah, another one I just love the design on. Like this is, like if you want to ambush them in combat, you just get your 2/2, and maybe you get to eat a Novice Inspector or something like that. But the more common mode you're going to do with this, I think, is having something die, and it doesn't have to be your creature, just any creature died this turn. And then a 2/2 gain 2 surveil 2 investigate is
great.
That's cooking. Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, like what would you, if this was just like blue black, that like 2/2 that gains 2 surveils 2 investigate, like what would you grade that?
If it was just straight up like with flash,
with flash,
it'd be like an A.
Yeah, that's an A pretty much. It's just so efficient. And yes, there is a hoop to jump through, but it's not that hard. Combat, removal spells, like just it's so cheap that you can go like turn 5 murder cast this. That's great, right? Or just like any cheap removal spell. So I think you're gonna be able to set this up in multiple ways and basically get to that A range with a little bit of work. And the buyout is sure you just make it 2/2 if you want to. So I think that amounts to basically not an A exactly, but I would give Drag the Canal an A minus.
I was going to give it a B plus.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And we've got Lazav. Lazav is back. Lazav, Wearer of Faces. This is blue-black for a 2/3. It's a detective. It's also a rare. When it enters the battlefield... whenever Lazav attacks, exile target creature... Let me try this again. Whenever Lazav, Weaver of Faces attacks, exile target card from a graveyard, then investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, you may have Lazav become a copy of a creature card exiled with it until end of turn. So it gets to eat things and then become them.
Yeah, so it does need a card in the graveyard in order to investigate. So and you might only have something in yours, which you can do, but you might not want to. So if both graveyards are empty, you're not getting the clue, but you're still getting a 2-mana 2/3, which is great. And then it can always turn itself on later as soon as there is something in the graveyard. And then if you happen to exile something really big or even slightly bigger than Lazav, it makes combat a nightmare too. Really elegant card. These are the kinds of rares I wish they keep printing.
Yeah, and also that 2/3 stat line we mentioned yesterday, just that's great in this set. Fantastic, lines up well with the disguise creatures. Nothing too bad to say about this card. I think the play patterns are pretty obvious, so I'll just stamp a grade on it, give Lazav a B+.
Yeah, that's what I had written down as well.
Sweet. We've got Etrada, Deadly Fugitive up next. 1 black-blue for a Mythic. This is a 1/4 Death Touch, so 3 mana 1/4 Death Touch. Face down creatures you control have 2 blue-black. Turn this creature face up. If you can't exile it, then you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. So a little bit weird, but we'll break this card down after we get to read the whole thing. Whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to a player, cloak the top card of that player's library. So we mentioned this yesterday once, but cloak comes up a few times in the rares. Cloaking is just taking a card from maybe top of your library. In the case of Etrada, it's the top of your opponent's library. Sometimes it's from your hand, and just putting it face down on your battlefield as a 2/2. And you're a cloaked creature. If it is a creature, you can just turn it up for its mana cost. And if it's a spell, you can't do anything. It just stays there, or land. And so what Etrada does is all of your cloak creatures, your disguise creatures, you can flip them up for 4 mana. But she actually does kind of break that rule where you can flip up spells. If you've cloaked a removal spell from the top of murder, you go, okay, I flip it up for 4 mana, and I just cast that murder. So pretty sweet card. 1/4 Death Touch is a great stat line. Not going to be easy to block, so she's just going to keep on pecking in, and your opponent kind of needs a removal spell in the moment.
Yeah, and I haven't done a check on the number of assassins in the set, but I know there's at least a couple. Like there's the blue-black mind control turns the creature into an assassin. And there might be 1 or 2 more as well. So there's also the chance that you can just play this and then swing and then trigger it right away too, and get a bonus 2/2 off the top of your opponent's deck.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And sometimes, like, it's interesting because I think in other sets with more disguise mechanic, that 2 blue-black would actually be a discount on your flipping your creatures up. But most of the time, you're actually paying more. Like, a lot of the unflips in this set are like 2 and 3 mana. So that's like, you're actually not... You can't really cheat too many things with that card, but once in a while you'll be able to.
Yeah, and it's a nice buyout in case you have like a non-blue-black card that you've hit, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm still putting this in the B+ range because it does need to hit, and it's like if they double block this, you're only killing one of them because it's only got 1 power. But I still think it's very good.
Yeah, still rigged. I also agree with B+.
Okay.
All right, we've got blue-red cards. What's our first one here?
Kylox's Volt Strider, which is 1 blue-red for a 4/4 vehicle. It's a mythic. It has Crew 2, but it also has Collect Evidence 6, which I guess since we're doing this fresh today, that's exiling cards from your graveyard with total mana value of at least 6 combined. So if you collect Evidence 6, Kylox's Volt Strider becomes an artifact creature until end of turn, so it's basically crewing itself. And whenever it attacks, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from among cards exiled with it. if that spell would be put into a graveyard, put it on the bottom of its owner's library instead.
When I first read this card, I was like, isn't this just like busted in constructed? But then I realized it doesn't cast it for free. You still have to cast the
No.
spell. It's just
Yeah,
drawing. It's
you have
like,
to pay the cost.
yeah, you're actually just drawing it again. So let's just vanilla test this vehicle. Forget about all the text. 3 mana, 4/4 crew 2. Do we like that?
Not like it's not bad.
No, it's not terrible. And, it's an artifact.
It's playable.
Blue Red's gonna care about that a little bit. Playable, certainly. And then this additional text, like you're gonna sometimes attack with it, like exile something, cast a removal spell. That's not bad either.
Yeah, so I think the normal pattern for this is going to be like you really only need to collect evidence once for this.
Yeah, really.
But also having the threat of doing that is going to be really big on like if you have no board and you just play this, your opponent can't attack into you because as long as you have 6 mana value worth of stuff in your graveyard.
Yep.
So like that's an extremely relevant line of text, even without the casting the instants or sorcery spells. Being able to crew the vehicle essentially for free is really important. And if you cast one spell off of this, you're gonna feel great.
Yeah, I think that threat of activation is like really easy to overlook. Like if you don't think about the play patterns of the card. Yeah, I think this card's definitely not as good as a lot of the cards we've seen before, but definitely pretty solid. I'm gonna give Kylox's Voltstrider a B-.
B-? I was gonna go B.
Okay. Yeah. They're pretty close. Next up is Ill-Timed Explosion. 2 blue-red for a sorcery at rare. Draw 2 cards, then you may discard 2 cards. When you do, Ill-Timed Explosion deals X damage to each creature, where X is the greatest mana value among cards discarded this way. So it's kind of like a 4 mana draw 2, or 4 mana filter 2 and wrath the board for some amount of damage.
Which is like if your wrath is good when you're behind and good when you're ahead,
yeah,
like sign me up. Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's great.
I love it.
Yeah, really strong card. So and blue red is it's interesting. It's always is blue red gonna be a little more controlling, a little more aggressive? I think there's kind of room for both. You don't necessarily want this in like your blue red aggro decks, but if you that's the other kind of nice thing too. We don't usually want to play a Wrath in an aggro deck, but if your buyout is like, well, I draw 2 cards, like that's not that bad either if you need to play it. So yeah, where do you land on this one?
Yeah, it's interesting because there will be times when you're like if you have a bunch of cards in hand, which is normally what you do when you're planning on wrathing, like you'll have cards in hand, you'll know how much damage you can do, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll know at least the minimum amount. You might draw something that does even more. But you also might not want to discard your most expensive thing. But then there'll also be spots where like you top deck this and you need a wrath.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, my top 2 cards, like Hail Mary,
Please,
we really need something here. So there's some awkwardness to it. I really like the design on this. It just feels very blue-red wrath. Like you kind of don't know what you're getting.
Yep.
But I do think it's capped in terms of strength of power.
Yes. No, I agree with that. It's not just like a crazy busted card. I think I'm going to give it a B- as well, just like the last card.
Yeah, I'll join you on B- for it.
B- for Ill-Timed Explosion. This one, Kylox, I think this is going to be a pretty quick one. Kylox Visionary Inventor. 5 blue-red for a 4/4 rare. It's an Artificer. It's got Menace, Ward 2, and Haste. When Kylox attacks, sacrifice any number of other creatures. Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is their total power. You can cast any number of instants and or sorcery spells from among the exile cards without paying their mana costs.
Yeah, this is just like a commander card or something.
Yeah,
it's just
I think it's just too clunky. Yeah. Like it's not reliable enough for your 7 mana, right? Like you could see something going on, but you're paying a 7 mana 4/4 that its effect is not going to be determined when you cast it. So yeah, I'll just go F on Kylox.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We've got Doppelgang up next. Blue, green, gold cards. XXX. Spicy. Green, blue. So we've got a kind of weird mana cost. So we'll explain that in a second if you haven't seen XXX before. It's a sorcery at rare. It says, for each of X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So you need to, the way this breaks down is you have to pay whatever you want for X for each of these instances of X. So if you want X to be 1, you have to pay 1, 1, 1. So 3 mana for the X's plus blue, green. If you want X to be 2, you have to pay 8 mana. And that's really the 2 main modes you're going to see with this card, 5 and 8. Sometimes people are going to do it for 11. But we've got 5 mana, make a clone of something on the battlefield. Or 8 mana, make 2 clones of 2 things. So you get 4 bodies.
Yeah.
Really good,
Well,
right?
it could be bodies. It is permanent.
It
You
is
can
permanent. That could be
target
lands, could
lands.
be
You can target
artifacts.
cases. You
Yeah.
can target clue tokens. I mean, you can kind of, brew to your heart's desire with this card. It's such a sweet design, and I do think you'll want to cast it for 8
Mhm.
as frequently as possible. But having a buyout
Yeah,
for 5
exactly.
is really good.
That's exactly how I saw this card too. Yeah, it's like you're trying to, you want some mana ramp to put in your deck to get to 8, but it's not like it's gonna get stuck in your hand doing nothing forever. So, and I do think when you cast this for 8, you're gonna win the game like a pretty large percentage of the time, right? Making 2 copies of the 2 best things. You can't copy the same thing twice for what it's worth. Like you can't make 4 copies. You need actual 2 targets when you kick it for 8. But yeah, I think it was a good ramp payoff. So it's kind of a synergy build aroundy grade, I think. But if you are on a ramp deck, I think this is like an A level card.
Okay, I was going to give it an A minus.
Yeah,
8's a lot.
Yeah, I agree with the A minus. Like I was just saying, in the ballpark of A. Yeah. So build around A minus for Doppelgang. All right, what's up next?
Next is Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, and Kellen is now blue-green. So Kellen is a human fairy detective, a rare 3/4 flying vigilance, and whenever Kellen Inquisitive Prodigy attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. However, Kellen also is an adventure card, I believe the only one in the set. I'm fairly confident about that, similar to last set. And the adventure side is a sorcery for blue-green. You can tail the suspect to investigate, and you may play an additional land this turn.
Yeah, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, the natural play patterns of this is turn 2, you investigate. Maybe you play a land, and then if you've got enough lands in hand, you can just play Kellen on turn 3. Mind you, that's not as easy as it might sound. Like, you're not always going to have the 4 lands in your opening hand or in the top few cards of your library. But even if you don't, that's totally fine because the rest of Kellen's good too.
Yeah, and then it can attack and it can destroy the clue you made off of the sorcery and draw a card. So
yeah, not a lot to hate.
Also, 3/4 flying vigilance for 4, pretty good.
Not a lot to hate. Attack. You got to draw a card, attacked onto this too. So yeah, I think that it's probably an A as well because it's flexible both in if you need to cast the creature, I'm sure you just do that. If you have time to cast both, it's great. Gets the get the cantrip with your 3/4 flying vigilance creature, and also just like put some pressure onto the opponent to crack their clues, right? Like they don't want to have their clues being eaten, so it's like, okay, I have to leave up 2 mana, so if they target my clue, I can crack it. It also just destroys artifact creatures, so yeah, no, I think Kellen's just an A.
An A? I was going to give it a B+, so we got a bit of a gap there.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my A. I think this has got enough going on.
Okay.
Vannifar, Evolved Enigma. This is a mythic, 2 green-blue for a 3/4 legendary creature, Elf Ooze Wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. Either cloak a card from your hand, so that means put a card from your hand face down as a 2/2 with ward 2, or put a +1/+1 counter on each colorless creature you control.
Yeah, this another like Simic's finally doing it.
Yeah, the rares are balancing Simic out. That's good. And this is good.
I mean, maybe not as good as the Boros one.
No,
they're not that far behind.
No, these ones are still good. So you're paying 4 mana. And you're not like making a 2/2, but you're putting 5-6 worth of stats on the board when you cast this on turn 4, right?
Yeah.
So that's just great. Turn a land into a 2/2. Turn one of your Skies creatures maybe if you want to do that, and then they have to kill this or else you're gonna keep making 2/2s. Turn your lands into 2/2s or your spells that you don't really want to cast that you think are better as 2/2s, and then they'll just keep growing. So really not a lot to hate about it.
No, like it's on turn 4, it's kind of like a 1 mana 3/4.
Right. Yeah, that's a way to look at it.
Like you pay 3 for your face down 2/2, but then you also pay 1 more mana for having Vannifar out there.
Yeah, card's very good. I think it's not quite like it doesn't just generate a bunch of material, so I don't think it's quite like a Mega Bomb A+ or anything. But do you think this is low A or B high B? I was probably gonna go B+ for this one.
I was going to go A- for this one.
Yeah, so we're a little bit swapped there.
So we'll flip-flop.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that brings us to the red-black gold cards. Blood Spatter Analysis. Red-black for an enchantment at rare. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target creature an opponent controls. And it says, whenever 1 or more creatures die, mill a card and put a bloodstain counter on Blood Spatter Analysis. Then sacrifice it if it has 5 or more bloodstain counters on it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, another just like I just love these designs.
Yeah.
I feel so warm and fuzzy when I read these
Like
cards.
efficient card, do a little bit of work, you get a little 2-for-1, and yeah, what's not to love?
Yeah, kill something, jump through a few hoops, play a little side quest, and
Yeah.
then get a little mini reward. Like
Exactly.
It's great.
Not over the top, but good card. I think this was probably more in like the B minus range for me. I'd probably give it just a B minus, but really strong.
I'll go B.
Okay,
I like
cool.
this thing. Yeah.
Nice. What's up next?
Next we have Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. 3 black-red for a 3/4 legendary human shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. Either that spell gains death lifelink, or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent.
Yeah, you might have cut out just slightly there, so if it might have just been on my end, but the spell gains death touch and lifelink if it was on Mark's end.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So definitely reads like a powerful card, a lot going on, but you're also paying 5 mana for a 3/4 that you then have to untap with and have spells in your hand. And red black, it's gonna you have a lot of removal in red black, but it's not like just like a 20. I don't think you're gonna end up with a deck with like 12 spells in it or something like that very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there is red does have a lot of removal spells.
It does. It does. Yeah,
and like if you're playing this, are you willing to play like the mind rot?
I could see like if you didn't have enough spells, sure. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so like there's ways to get there.
Yeah, I think I don't dislike the card. I'm just like tempering expectations here a little bit. I would just guess
for sure.
Yeah. I would just guess that the 5 mana 3/4 is going to be a bigger cost than it might seem on face value. So I'm going to give Judith a C+. I think it's a strong card, got that upside, but also has quite obvious downside, I would say.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge range on how good it is depending on how many cheap spells you have.
Yep.
So I'll probably still give it a build around score because I think you kind of need to do that here.
Yeah.
So I'll give it like a build around B+. Like if you have a lot of spells, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and it seems a little bit weird. It might seem like, oh, like the text box is so good, but really just taking that when you play an understated creature at this point in the game, like that is a point you will fall behind. When you play Judith, you're kind of like investing in the future, right? It's not just like value now. It's I hope this pays dividends, right? So just if that seems weird that we're low on the card, really just taking the gravity of how bad it is to pay a 5 mana 3/4. That really is painful sometimes.
Yeah.
This one, the Rakdos, Patron of Chaos, 4 red black for a 6/6 demon legendary creature at Mythic. It's got flying and trample, and at the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards.
Yeah, this is kind of like the Dracosaur or whatever that we just had from LCI.
Yeah. And it's immediate, too. Just like... Whew.
Yeah, this thing's insane.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really, really good. And they really get you, too. Like, non-land, non-token. Like, I think you're probably going to have to let them draw 2 cards so much of the time when this comes down. Because you just can't afford to sack 2 things. Like, the way you beat this kind of card... is you just like, okay, I'm about to kill them, or in 2 turns I can kill them. So you're gonna have to feed the demon, I think, the first time it comes down, or the first time it triggers.
Yeah, is this an A+?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like
okay.
The only thing that holds me back a little bit is just like 6 mana, but I don't know, just the end step trigger, the giant body kills them so quickly. Most of the time, it kind of does have an enter the battlefield effect. So yeah, I'll give it an A+ to Rakdos.
Okay. And it's a Mythic, so it can get an A+.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a reprint here, Assassin's Trophy. Green and black for an instant at rare. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle.
Yeah, so constructed card, which
Mm-hmm.
may surprise some people, but like giving your opponent a game object, even if it's like the most minuscule game object you can think of, is always really bad.
Yeah, one of the most common comments we get on these set review videos actually are for cards like Get Lost from LCI, or there was, the cards kind of like that, the Fateful Absence from way back when in Midnight Hunt, where it looks like not that bad, where it's like, okay, like, I'm getting a very efficient removal spell and give my opponent something, but I'm making up for that by the fact that this is efficient. That equation is not in your favor very often. Like, in Constructed it is, because games come down to like, super tight mana efficiency a little more often than limited. But giving your opponent something, like Mark said, is just really, really bad. So if you're looking at this card and be like, oh, that's surprising, just fine tune how bad it is to give your opponent a resource. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna give this like a D plus.
Yeah, I would say so too. And if you do end up putting it in your deck, it kind of has that like Sarah Avenger text that we talked about yesterday, where you really don't want to cast it until turn 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up next?
Next is Urgent Necropsy. 2 black-green for a mythic instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, collect evidence X, where X is the total mana value of the permanents this spell targets. And then destroy target artifact, up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target enchantment, and up to 1 target planeswalker.
Okay, so let's just say you're trading mana for mana here. You're killing a 4-drop. You have to collect evidence 4. Okay. If you kill a clue token, that's free. So that's kind of nice, right? So you've got like a kind of expensive removal spell, but it's not prohibitively expensive, just like what you get for a black common removal spell these days. But you have to exile something from the grave, and then it's got some additional, modality if you want to do a little more.
Yeah, like the fact that you can hit artifacts that have 0 mana value helps this thing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the like cases or enchantments that you want to target are going to be pretty cheap. So it's kind of a weird card, but I think it's playable. Like it's definitely not an F.
No, definitely. And there's also sometimes like you're gonna kill an artifact creature and a creature, like a regular creature sometimes too. Right? That's gonna be really good. This is probably a card, it's kind of funny. Green, black, and blue. Green is like the, collect evidence colors. It's definitely a card that gets better if you're not collecting much of evidence. Like if this is like your one thing you're feeding your graveyard to, gets a little bit better. Or a little bit, at least a little bit less awkward. Yeah, so grading it's a little is pretty interesting. I do think like if you had no other evidence cards in your deck, I think this card would just be like a fine card. It just says kill, exile something from your graveyard, kill something 4 mana. You're gonna be able to do that most games. It gets a little bit worse the more of that you have going on, but gets better in the sense that if you have a lot of collect evidence, you probably have a lot of surveil, self-mill, that kind of stuff. So yeah. Tricky one to really nail down though. What do you like giving it?
I think I have it somewhere in the C range.
Yeah.
Like C to C minus ish.
Yeah. I was just gonna land on a C, which maybe sounds a little cowardly,
Okay.
but yeah. And I also don't want to downplay the fact that sometimes you just can't cast this on turn 4, which is a downside compared to your normal black removal spell. You'll see it common. So yeah, C for Urgent Necropsy. Ooh, this is a banger. Izoni, Center of the Web. 4 black-green for a 5/4 legendary creature elf detective at rare. It's got Menace. Whenever Izoni enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence 4. If you do, create 2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with Menace and Reach, and sacrifice 4 tokens. It has the ability sacrifice 4 tokens, surveil 2, and then draw 2 cards and gain 2 life.
Yeah, if there's any color pair that's gonna get a rare like this that reads like a mythic, I'm okay with it being, black green.
Yep.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta incentivize the maybe lesser supported color pairs, which is great. Yeah, this card's another A+, I think. Just
I'm
fantastic. Just everything you want. Stabilizes you, draws you cards, attacks them. Yeah, fantastic. Red green gold cards. What's our first one?
We have World Soul's Rage, X green red for a sorcery. It's a rare. World Soul's Rage deals X damage to any target and put up to X target lands from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped.
So really inefficient removal spell.
Well, yes, but it is more than that.
Yes, no, for sure. I'm not just trying to put a stamp on it right there. So It is more than that, but like 2 mana plus X is a lot, right? That's
Yes.
yeah. Like you're paying 4 mana to kill a 2/2 or 2 toughness creature.
Yes. But then if you've got like a land in your graveyard from like an Evolving Wilds or a mill and a land in your hand or whatever, then next turn you have 7 mana.
It also goes to face. Like that's a little bit of an upside.
Yeah, like it's I can kind of see it.
Yes, I mean, see it as like a good card or as a playable card that you would put in your deck.
It's a playable card.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I think this is going to be kind of like 20 to 23rd playable range in a red green deck. Don't take it highly. Like you're gonna
like
get this
somewhere
card
between D plus and C minus.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
I think I give it a D plus because you're right. Like even if you kill a 2/2 or a 2 toughness creature, and you get to put if you do get to put a land in play or return a land, like that is pretty okay. Like that, I'm fine with that. It is unfortunate, I guess, that a lot of the 2/2s that you're gonna want to kill have ward 2, so that makes X removal spells a little more awkward. But yeah, I'll say D plus for Roll Souls.
Okay,
range. Yeah,
I'll go see. Like this card is okay early, right?
Yeah.
Like for 3 or 4 mana, like the ramp is going to be Yaris, and then late game the X is more relevant. So
yeah,
I can kind of see it doing.
Yeah.
It. Yeah.
We've got Yaris up next. Yaris, Roar of the Old Gods. This is 4 mana, 2 green red for a 4/4 legendary creature at rare. Other creatures you control have haste. Whenever one or more face down creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And also has whenever a face down creature you control dies, return to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. If it's a permanent card, then turn it face up.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like,
That's
wow.
wild.
Like just to remind people, the common red green morph that the disguised creature that we saw yesterday was a 6/7 reach.
Right. Yeah. So
if you play that on turn 3 and then play this like an attack, you either draw a card or like trade, which is great. And even if it doesn't trade, even if you just chump attack, your thing flips into the 6/7.
Yeah. Like, what are they gonna do against this card? Block?
They're gonna die.
Wait.
Die.
Like how did they ever? Yeah. This thing has to be killed just like immediately, or else it just takes over. A or A plus basically. I think it's probably just an A because not like super mega stabilizing, and it's also not like super in your face a huge bunch of damage right away. But it's not that far off of that. So I'm gonna land A on Yaris, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit better.
Yeah, like you do need some disguised creatures.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's going to be trivial, so I'll just give it. I won't give it a builder on grade. We'll just go with A.
Sweet. Anne's Rag, the Quake Mole. This is 2 green red for a 8/4 legendary creature mole god at Mythic. It's a 4-mana 8/4. When it becomes blocked, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. It has the ability 3 red, red, green, green. As Anne's Rag must be blocked each combat if able. Or yes, each combat. Wait, must be blocked each combat this turn if able. Oh, just okay. It's worded that way, so if you have multiple combats, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought it was hilarious that Sirkovitz called this the guacamole.
The guacamole, that's so good. And it looks like he's got a bunch of guac behind him.
Well, yeah, it was also called the guacamole.
Yeah, that's great.
It's very clever, very well done.
I didn't catch that from him. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, that second line of text, I don't think that's like relevant.
No.
Like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna not block this and take 8?
Yeah. Well, they might do it the first
time. You don't need it.
No, definitely not. They might. I think probably your opponent's not going to block the first time with this, right? Just take the 8 and then try to not give you another combat.
Take the 8 on turn 5.
8's a lot. I know.
And then next turn, you have your staggering size, like
you just trample over them.
It's just the game's just.
And you're like, well, okay, whoops. Yeah, this card is it's a good one. I think that it's not like not as amazing as some of the other A-level cards we've seen, but I'd put it like a B plus probably, just being massive and having a good ability.
I'll go A minus.
Okay.
Like there's
Yeah.
tricks, there's removal. Like one attack with this, you're looking pretty great.
Yeah, that's a nice one. All right, for with the end of the getting to the end of the gold cards here, we've got a clear F, Leyland of the Guild Pact. It's got a weird mana cost, 4 mana, but it goes Selesnya hybrid, Simic hybrid, Golgari hybrid, and Gruul hybrid. So all the green guild hybrid. It's an enchantment at rare, just like all ley lines. You can put it on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand, just for free. And it says each non-land permanent you control is all colors, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types.
Yeah, this is easiest F.
Yep.
We'll move on.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, cool. Niv Mizzet Guild Pack. This is like the 7th Niv Mizzet or something now. It's Wooburg, 5 mana, 1 of each color, for a 6/6 dragon avatar legendary creature at rare. It's got flying and hexproof from multicolor, and whenever Niv Mizzet deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards, and you gain X life, or X is the number of different color pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors.
Yeah, so it's nice that all of the hybrid stuff is different 2-color pairs to enable this, but I think in this set the casting cost is too much.
A little too tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, somebody's going to cast it. I think it's going to, it's going to be a once in a blue moon kind of thing that you could do it. Like, I always kind of like to differentiate between, like, the pure don't do this at all and the dreamers rares where it's like, yeah, you could do it if you really wanted to. But I agree, like, it's just going to be quite hard to get 5 colors of mana. And also, unfortunately, it doesn't even combo with the last card we looked at because this makes your cards every color, and it needs to be exactly 2 colors. That's unfortunate. Yeah. So, responsible F, Dreamers C+ or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna get. I don't plan on casting this.
Yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine.
Yeah.
All right, now we move on to the Wooburg cards, starting with white, starting with the 1-drop. So we got Case of the Uneaten Feast, a rare case. Single white mana. The first ability, the static ability, is whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. The solve condition is you gain 5 or more life this turn. And when you solve it, it gains the ability sacrifice this case. Creatures in your graveyard gain, you can cast this card from your graveyard this turn until end of turn.
Yeah, 5 is a lot to solve this.
Yeah.
And if you're not solving this, it's not doing anything. So I think this is just another F.
Yeah, the you need lifelink. Like I could see like a white-black deck with that the hybrid disguise creature that is a 2/1 lifelink flyer and gives lifelink to something else. I could see it there. Like if you've got, I'd say 5-6 ways to gain life outside of this, I think it's a thing you should consider. But it's very hard to turn it on just naturally.
So you want to give it like a D-?
Yeah, I would say like a split grade of F and maybe not even F because like I'm just gonna give it a build around. I would give this like a build around C+ basically.
Oh wow, build around C+.
Yeah, because I think if you think your deck can solve this card, the incidental life gain is good, right? Like every creature gaining 1 life. That's a good effect.
Yeah, with 0 board presence, and then like you need a lot of other things. Like it's a terrible top deck. It's okay on turn 1, but you're not solving it until turn like 6 or 7 probably.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I think you're gonna get you're gonna find a deck for this like 10% of the time or less or something. Like I just wanted to call it out as like I think this is not a 0. That's all.
Yeah, and like the solved is a good, like people call this Yawgmoth's Will, but not having to spend 3 mana to do it is huge because you get to cast basically an extra spell for that mana.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
also,
I think I'm still giving this an F. So we'll.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. We'll revisit this in time. Doorkeeper Thrall is up next. 1 and a white for a 1/2 at rare. It's got flash and flying, and it says artifacts and creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger.
Yeah, so that's for both players.
Yep.
So maybe you can use that to your advantage, but I think it's a little small.
Yeah, I like if you had no enter the battlefield effects, I could see playing it, but even still, you might run into an opponent who doesn't have that many, and you've just got like a 1/2 flyer. And a lot of the enter the battlefield ability, like real estate, is taken up by the disguise creatures, like when this flips up. Although a lot of those also say when this enters too, so not too many things that cuts into. I just think it's like low floor, not that high ceiling. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna give it a D minus.
Yeah, I think so too. And the other thing is like the two best white commons, Inside Source and Novice Inspector, have good enter the battlefield effects. So I imagine you're gonna not find a deck for this. What's up next?
Next is Assemble the Players. 1 and a white for a rare enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library.
I don't think this is very good at all. I think this is
No.
like, even in a deck where you have a lot of 2-power creatures, you're paying 2 mana, and then there has to be a 2-power creature on top, and you have to want to cast it at that time, right? You might be like, well, I need to cast a removal spell this turn, but I can't cast that 2-drop. Yeah, or that 2-power creature. Yeah, I don't think it's. I think it's just enough. I don't think this card's good.
Yeah, you can disguise cards that have more power off the top, notably.
That is true.
But I think the number of creatures you need to have this hit in order to be playable is somewhere between the range of like 15 to 20.
Right, yeah. I think people are going to underestimate how many you need for this. Because the rest of your deck is like, imagine if you have 10 or 12. It means like every 4th draw or so, you're going to hit this. But the other ones aren't. Like, they're going to be lands. They're going to be bigger creatures. They're going to be spells. Like, yeah, I completely agree. You need, for this to be anywhere in the conversation, you need like 15. And that's just very difficult even. Even though this is a theme. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to give this enough.
I'm going to give it a D minus on the assumption that there'll be once in the format that I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, you found the deck for it, basically.
Yeah.
10th District Hero is up next. This is a rare human. Not a detective on the type line, but it is a detective eventually. It's a 2-mana 2/3, 1 and a white for a 2/3. Has 2 abilities. The first one is 1 and a white, collect evidence 2. 10th District Hero becomes a human detective with base power and toughness 4/4 and gains vigilance. And another ability, 2 and a white, collect evidence 4. If 10th District Hero is a detective, it becomes a legendary creature named Meliva, the Stalwart. It has base power and toughness 5/5, and it gains other creatures you control have indestructible.
Yeah, so it turns out all you need to do is collect a tiny bit of evidence to become a detective.
Yeah, apparently.
That's why there's so many of them in this.
Yeah.
The bar is very low.
This is, I don't know if you know this, but this is a card that's like a long time coming. There's like the 10th District Hero or whatever upgrades into like, there's been like 5 cards before this that have had this character on. This is like her final form, basically. Yeah, but this is a really good one. Like, really good card.
Yeah, 2 mana 2/3 already. Like, I'm already excited about that.
Yeah, collect evidence 2 is a very small number to make a 4/4. And then that, like, man, yeah, 5/5 that all your other creatures have indestructible. Yeah, that's really good too.
Just an A?
Yeah, I think it's just an A. Just very efficient. Demands an answer. Great. All right, what's next?
Unyielding Gatekeeper. 1 and a white for a 3/2. So already sounds great. It's a rare elephant cleric. It can flip up from its disguise for 1 and a white. And when it is turned face up, exile another target non-land permanent. If you controlled it, return it to the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, its controller creates a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token.
Ooh, this card's really good too. Yeah, just the efficiency of, like you said, just fine. 2 mana, if you want to play out your 2-drop, 2 mana 3/2, that's pretty good. And then, yeah, you can either blink your own creatures, or you can get rid of something problematic. Although you don't want to just flip this up for anything, right? Just giving them, like, killing their 4/4 and giving them a 2/2. Sometimes you're gonna do it, but it's not like you should probably wait on it if that's the best thing. But if you have something great, obviously you can kill it, downgrade it, and it can counter like fight spells, combat tricks, because good things in response to instant speed stuff. Yeah, not a lot to not like about this one.
Yeah, pretty sneaky thing. And again, the flavor, like, you get rid of something and then all of a sudden the detective comes snooping around.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. It's cool.
No, great set design.
But yeah, this card, great on 2 mana, and then great to disguise as well. So not super powerful, but very flexible card.
Yep.
A minus?
Yeah, I think I would give it an A minus. And the thing to note too is it says exile another target online permanent. You can just, if you do have one of those big disguise creatures, you can cheat the mana on it basically, right? Because you blink one of your disguise creatures, flips up, and comes back pretty big. Although there's not a ton of those. Yeah, I'll. So you said A minus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go A minus for Unyielding Gatekeeper as well.
Okay. Notably, if you're playing on Arena and you're planning on doing that to your own thing, like in response to your opponent targeting it, let them pay the ward cost first.
Yes.
Like let them do that, and then you can flip it.
Yes, that's a great general tip.
Yeah.
Wojek Investigator up next. 2 and a white for a 2/4 Angel Detective at rare. It's got flying and vigilance, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, investigate once for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you.
Yeah. So I like to gush about the design of this set. I do prefer not to reward the player who like curves out and dumps their hand faster.
Yeah.
Like I would prefer if it was kind of the reverse, just from like a nitpick perspective, but still a very powerful card.
Yeah, great. The body's great. 2/4 Vigilant Flyer. That's a good stat line, and you're gonna investigate once in a while. Like even if you don't, it's got a good body. I think this is like I'd give it a B plus.
E plus.
Yeah.
Some
B
of them there as
plus
well.
for Wojek Investigator. Ooh, we got one that's the hotness in a lot of formats. People are talking this one up. Delany, Streetwise Lookout. So this is 2 and a white, 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature, Human Scout at Mythic. Creatures you control with 2 or less power can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. And if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And that's enter the battlefield. That's death triggers. That's attack triggers. It's a lot of triggers. Usually this is just ETBs. This is for a lot of things, though.
Yeah, triggers for days.
Yeah, triggers for days.
But a bit of a small, vulnerable
Yep.
human frail body, right?
Yep.
Like it's there's some concerns there.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm just it's not too hard just to go through the set and be like, yeah, this triggers, it. Especially in white. We were just talking about the two top, what we think are the two top white commons, Novice Inspector and Inside Source. This triggers for both of those, which is kind of nice. This coming down, like, it's not even the kind of thing where it's like you need to play this first for you to really benefit from it, because you've got the combat ability where your small creatures can't be blocked by big creatures. Yeah, it's definitely one that's going to be interesting to see, because I agree that balancing of it is kind of small, and you're not always going to draw this at the same time with creatures that actually work with it. Sometimes it is just going to be a 3-mana 2/2.
Yeah, I think we haven't disagreed too much this set review. I'm going to give you a chance to grade this one first.
Yeah. No, I think it's a little bit of a synergy card. Like, I think you have to be very conscious about how many things trigger it, and you want 8, 9 or something like that. If you're there, I would give it like a B plus. But if you're under that, I think it's pretty bad, because the times you don't draw a creature that works with this, it's like really terrible. It's gonna be, if you're under the 8 number, I would give it like a D, or like maybe not that low, like a C minus. So where do you land?
Yeah, I had just written down, like, it makes sense to kind of give it a synergy or build around grade. I had just given it a C just because I think C is roughly half my decks end up playing this card, and I think that's roughly where I'm going to end up. Like, I think you will end up in a spot where at the end of the draft you just shouldn't play it.
Yeah, it does have, it's good to point out, it does count itself for the can't be blocked, but it's not that difficult to block. Like, yes, it's an evasive ability, but it's not just unblockable, right? Your opponents are going to have 2/2s lying around. They're going to have their disguised creatures.
There's a lot of 2-power creatures or 1-power creatures in the set.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I have a bit of a split grade. You're just going to give it the C or C plus or whatever?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a C just because I expect to cut it some portion of the time.
Yeah. Sounds good. Oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, this triggers ward twice. I didn't even think about that. Right? Because that is a triggered ability. So your opponent's going to have to pay 4 if they want to kill your
But if they're targeting like something with ward, they're probably just going to kill this instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is
so. Yeah, it's true, but probably irrelevant.
Yeah, agree. Our last, not our last white card. One of our last white cards here. No Witnesses. This is 2 white for a sorcery at rare. Each player who controls the most creatures investigates, then destroy all creatures.
That first line of text is a major downside.
Yes, give them a card back.
Like, it basically means your Wrath needs to hit 1 more creature than usual to be good.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big deal.
Yeah, and we've seen cards like this before that, like, depopulate in Streets of New Capenna, Shadow to the Sky, and Theros Beyond Death, where it's like you draw your Wrath, but you draw a card if you have a thing, right? So, yeah, I think this card's okay. I think that it is way more for, like, we talked about, is there a controlling white deck in the format? I think there is, but it's not the default, so you have to be pretty particular about this. and it's not even that great when you're in that deck. So I don't know. I think I'd give this like a synergy B- or C plus. Yeah, synergy C plus. I think. Like Wraths in general
You
have just got a little bit less good these days.
you and all your synergy and build around grades.
Well,
That's the coward's way out of Alex.
no, it's the nuanced way. The people want nuance. All right, what do you want to give it?
I'm gonna give it just a D. I
Yeah.
think it's bad. Yeah.
Mark's just complaining because he's the one filling in the spreadsheet, so he has to type a few extra
Right,
letters.
extra letters.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to give that qualifier though. You always got to defend against the YouTube comments. That's it. 'Cause there's gonna be one person, preemptively. All right. We have one last white card here. What do we have?
Oh, we can just skip this one. It sucks.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, surely. Oh my god, this thing's amazing. Okay. Aurelia's Vindicator. 2 white for a 4/2 Mythic Angel. It has flying, it has lifelink, it has ward 2, and it also has disguise, can be flipped up for X, colorless, plus 3 colorless, plus a white, so 4 mana plus X. And when it's turned face up, exile up to X other target creatures from the battlefield and or creature cards from graveyards. When Aurelia's Vindicator leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hands.
This is almost a card like as you're reading it, your eyes kind of just like gloss over. You're like, okay, and like fantastic abilities, flying lifelink ward 2. And yeah, it's really interesting. So this is a callback to Angel of Serenity, way back, Return to Ravnica block. Yes. And this is kind of the only time we've seen this ability. It's not exile them and then when this leaves they come back. It's they go to hand. So not only are you bouncing the creatures effectively, but also like gives you that exile from graveyards to give you some card advantage too. So yeah, I mean, no, I'm just talking about specifics here, but this is just an A+ too.
Yeah, definite A+. Yep. And I don't want to see Angel. I on camera match lost a game where I had 6 pack rats out because my opponent went into combat and then played a post-combat Angel Serenity. So I have bad memories of this.
Well, pack rat's out in the set, luckily, so don't worry, you're safe. All right, moves on to blue here. Lost in the Maze is our first blue card. X blue for an enchantment at rare. It's got flash, and it says when Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures. Put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control. Tapped creatures you control have hexproof.
Yeah, cool card.
Yeah, cool design.
And I like the art too.
Yeah. Nice little circuitous route there.
We haven't mentioned it, but yeah, it's nice art.
Yeah, this is a sick one.
Yeah, it's kind of like Icy Blast from Cons, where that one had the requirement of having a 4-power creature to lock down. This one has a second blue, which is a bit of a knock against it. But it also has that bottom line where you can kind of use this either, I was going to say either proactively or reactively, but it's almost like either reactively or reactively,
right?
But just in different ways. I like this thing. I think it's good.
No, so do I. I think even if it didn't have that tap creatures you control of X-proof, like that would still be a pretty good card, just locking down their team for 2 turns. Although, with a bunch of disguise creatures, it's not that blue does kind of hurt, right? You're not often going to want to target a disguise creature with this thing or be able to.
That's true.
Yeah. So probably a little bit worse than Icy Blast on average, I would say, especially because I imagine board stalls aren't going to be as common in this format as they were in Cons, where that was just like breaks open the board and you kill them. But still a good card. And I think I'd get Lost in Maze a B.
A B?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to give it a C+, so I'm a little lower than you, but that's totally fine.
Nice. All right, what's next?
Next, we have Proft's Eidetic Memory. Am I saying that right? Eidetic?
Yeah, I think so.
Proft's Eidetic Memory. 1 and a blue for a legendary enchantment rare. When Proft's Eidetic Memory enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn, -1.
Strange card. I think it's just not great.
Really? Oh, okay. Talk me down on it.
No. Maybe I'm just trying to like take it all in here. The beginning of combat on your turn. Yeah. Okay. No. It's fine. It's low, very high floor. Like you can't knock it too much. You're gonna draw a card.
Yeah, I kind of see this as like it's kind of like Spirited Companion.
Sure. Yeah. And it just kind of sits there and does its thing. Yeah. No. It's pretty good.
Like it's 2 mana, draw a card, get 1/1 worth of stats, as long as you have a creature. and then every clue afterwards turns into another plus
Nope.
one plus one counter.
Totally right. No, I was too low on this card. I just like I think I forgot about the fact that it spotted you a counter the first time, which is great. Yeah, that makes it good. Still not like not a bomb or anything, but like a
No.
like a C plus B minus ish.
Yeah, I was gonna go like B minus.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and just one thing I thought about the last card we were talking about, so not to jump around too much, but with Lost in the Maze, that line, tap creatures you control have hexproof. That just means that combat tricks on your turn are going to be very good, right? Because your attacking creatures have hexproof as well.
Right, and you can also just cast it just for blue to give something hexproof.
Totally.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah.
And then sorry for back to Prof's eidetic memory. I'll give it a C plus. You want to give it a B minus?
Yeah, I'm gonna go B minus.
Cool.
I think it's good.
We got a blue case here. Case the Ransacked Lab. 2 and a blue. For a rare case, instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's the first ability. To solve it, you have to cast 4 instants and sorceries this turn. And when it's solved, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you draw a card.
Yeah, way too hard to solve.
Yep.
Easy F, right?
Nope. Yeah, this is just a constructed card. Can't cast 4 spells very easily. Coveted Falcon. 1 blue for a 1/4 at rare. It's an artifact creature. It's got flying, and it says, whenever Coveted Falcon attacks, gain control of target permanent you own, but don't control. Okay, so something you've given the opponent or they've stolen. It's got disguise for 1 and a blue, and it says, when Coveted Falcon is turned face up, target opponent gains control of any number of target permanents you control. Draw a card for each one they gain control of this way.
Yeah, so another cool card. Like I think the play pattern for this normally is like, you play it face down on turn 3, turn 4, you can flip it up for 2 mana, give them one of your tapped lands, attack, get it back, draw a card.
Yeah.
So already that's
good.
better than the Snoop we saw yesterday that flipped up for 3. And you do have, like, you can give them any permanent. So there could be things you have that don't really matter. Like, you could give them your Oblivion Ring.
Yeah, makeshift binding. Yeah, that's great.
There's all kinds, like, some spots where you might give them 2 lands, although there's a bit of a risk. You can give them like an equipment maybe if they don't have any creatures. There are spots where you can give them multiple cards, and I wouldn't just give your whole board away. Although it would be a nice screenshot. But giving like 2 or 3 things and then hoping your Falcon survives a couple turns, I don't think is too bad of a plan.
Yeah, this is gonna be like the coolest new way to concede the game, right? Just like, well, I'm losing. Yeah.
You take it all.
Take it all, man. You can have it. No, totally. I think this is a card that it's easy to read and be like, I don't get it, like what's happening here. But you're playing this like push your luck kind of game, basically, and the base slide is fine. Like, it's just gonna be drawing a card. So yeah, really like good card, pretty fun. I like in the art they have the candlestick in the back, the clue equipment. It's kind of cute. Yeah, I think I would give Coveted Falcon a B.
Yeah, just make sure on Arena you don't misclick and give them the Falcon. then you're in big trouble.
That is bad. I'm almost surprised they didn't template it so you can't do that. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So
next,
you're giving it a B?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B.
Yeah, I'll join you on a B.
Cryptic Coat up next. 2 and a blue for a equipment at rare. When Cryptic Coat enters the battlefield, cloak the top card of your library, then attach Cryptic Coat to it. The equipped creature gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. And you can pay 1 and a blue to return Cryptic Coat to its owner's hand.
Okay, I'm gonna test you on this one. I want you to grade it first.
Okay. I will. Well, we haven't even talked about the card, but my initial grade was gonna be pretty high. I was gonna give. Yeah, I was gonna give this like a B plus. But are you? This reads to me like a powerful card, and you asked me that question makes me think you don't like this card as much as I do.
Oh, I think this is like an A.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Never mind. So you think I'm too low on it then? Yeah.
Amazing, I think.
So you're getting 3 mana, 3/2 unblockable at very worst, and then you can just keep going. Yeah, I know you're right. I'm a little too low on it. It's just great. It's just you keep on rebuying it and making new things and flipping up your things, and they're giants. Yeah, no, I'll join you. No.
And like everything, like unblockable 3/2 for 3 mana is already decent, and it's better than that because it's cloaked, so it has ward, and like could potentially be something that also has a flip ability.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they deal with your creature, like your unblockable creature, and you're just like, yeah, no problem. Let's do it again. I think this is going to be a nightmare to play against.
No, you're totally right. No, want to just give it an A then?
Yeah, I'm just going A for
Great.
this.
No, I will join you.
Okay.
What's up next?
Next, we have Forensic Gadgeteer, 2 and a blue for a 2/3 Vidalcan Artificer Detective, which is a rare. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate, and activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana.
Okay, so your clues crack for 1. Every artifact you cast gives you 1.
Yeah, Death Sea is licking his lips.
Yeah, exactly.
Poisoning
The
people
poisoner,
out.
yeah, is like excellent. Yeah, so if you have, let's say you have no artifact spells in your deck, right? But you've got a few things that investigate, like 4 or 5 things that investigate. Okay, like not
Yeah,
great,
okay.
not great. Makes a mana here and there, but if you can draw one, if you like investigate once off this thing, you're pretty happy. And
Yeah.
more like investigate draws you into more artifacts, just keeps on going, keeps on chaining. So if you are, again, like 5, 6, 7, 8 artifacts, and I don't think it's gonna be too tough to get to, it's a really good card.
Yeah, and it is 2 power, and it is a detective. Like it checks a lot of boxes
exactly.
for different decks as well.
Yeah, 2, 3.
This one I would be fine with giving like a synergy grade, just assuming you need to have lots of stuff for it.
And I would give it like a synergy B+.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, sweet. Sort of like Akal Pakal from the last set a little bit, where it's like, yeah, cast artifacts, draw some cards.
Yep.
You've got Steam Core Scholar up next. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Weird Detective at rare. It's got flying and vigilance. And when it ETBs, you draw 2 cards, and then you discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant sorcery or a creature with flying.
Yeah, nobody wants to have this as their partner, right? The weird detective.
Yeah, that guy's kind of weird.
But another design that I really like, where like it's potentially 3 mana, 2/2 flying vigilance, draw a card, and like even if you have to discard 2 cards, you're fueling collect evidence. There's like the blue-black thing that returns from your graveyard. There's a lot of things that want to be in your graveyard for various reasons. So really elegant design. Really happy with this kind of card. Does it creep into the A- range? Probably not. Probably like a B+.
Yeah, I think going up a card is a little too like it's not just you're not just like great. I go up a card all the time. You do have to kind of feel like okay, I'm discarding a spell here. I mean, it's great if you just have a bunch of spells in hand and you're drawing into lands. So maybe it does.
Yeah,
maybe it does.
I'm gonna give it an A-.
No, you're right. Yeah. I think so. Like if you're looking for lands, this is fantastic. And if you're looking for spells, then you're gonna find spells because drawing 2 is pretty good to get you there. So yeah, I'll give Steam Core Scholar an A- as well.
Okay.
Cool. Reenact the Crime. 1 blue, blue, blue. 4 mana, triple blue. For an instant at rare. Exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Okay. People seem to be... Maybe this is another one I should get you to grade.
I don't like this card very much.
Okay.
I know it's got some constructed heat on it, but I don't like it's timing specific. It's blue, 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 triple blue. Like that's tough. Like sometimes you're gonna get something cool, sometimes you're not. That just seems pretty variance filled. What do you think? Oh, sorry, you want me to give it a grade? I was just gonna. Yeah, sorry. It's not quite enough, but I think this is not a great card. Like I'm gonna give this a D.
A D. Okay. I am going to be higher on this card than
okay.
you, which is why I wanted you to grade it first.
Nice, yeah.
Like it. Okay, it's either graveyard and it's from anywhere. So you just need something big to go to a graveyard, whether it gets discarded, whether like you could trade with your disguise creature. Like if you have a huge disguise creature and you just attack and they block it, and then you do this, like you've gotten a cheap card there. They can mill it, they can discard it. I don't think it's that hard to make something like pretty big for this, and at instant speed too.
I would like it a lot better if it was like a red or a green card for the giants disguised creatures, but a lot of blue ones are pretty small. Then you're gonna be playing a lot of blue cards because you're blue, blue, blue.
Yeah, you could play like the crocodile.
Sure. Yeah, that's something. That's something.
It does kind of depend. Like it's better against green and black decks, which will probably be a bit less common. Because if someone just like cycles a topiary panther or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like you can just make a 6/5 trample, right?
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
there's a lot of ways that this you can kind of see it. So I don't think it's great.
No, I agree.
But I was gonna give it an optimistic C minus.
Right. Yeah, I think so. There's some talk in chat like, oh, this is impossible to cast. Like triple blue or triple whatever isn't impossible, but it's you need to. It's a deck building. It's like it's not just a straight odds thing where it's like, will I cast it? Will I not? You just don't put this in like a 9/8 deck very often. It's a deck building cost, is the way I see it. Yeah.
And I do think, as I said, I think you can lean more heavily into a single color in this set than you can in most others.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with my D, but I agree with all the things you said. Basically, like,
Okay.
I don't disagree, but I still think that makes it about a D for me.
Okay. You've baked that into your grade already.
Yeah.
Because you didn't give it an F.
No,
I
exactly.
thought you might have given it an F, and then I was going to be like, waha.
We've got Intrude on the Mind up next. This is a instant at Mythic. It's 3 blue. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand and the other pile into the graveyard, and then you create a 0/0 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, then put a +1/+1 counter on it for each card that was put into your graveyard this way.
Yeah, really sweet.
Yeah, nice Factor Fiction variant. Although it is quite a bit worse because your opponent ultimately chooses the pile that you get. Yeah.
Yeah, you always want to be choosing the piles, and all the cards are face up, so the opponents are going to know. Like some of these are like one face up, one face down. They've played with Factor Fiction a lot, but stapling a creature that's usually going to be a 2/2 or 3/3 flyer onto this and making it an instant.
It is.
Sign me up. I love it.
It's also kind of funny that, like, I don't think you're doing this that often, but like people always joke with Factor Fiction, oh, put it in a 0/5 split. Sometimes you actually will do that, right? Like, do I get these cards, these lands, and a spell, or do I get a 5/5? Right? Like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, like I could legitimately see any combination of 4 and 1, or 3 and 2, 0 and 5.
Like, especially because this is an instant too, so especially in combat, like. If you go, they attack with a bunch of 3/3s, and you go, I'm gonna put my best spell in one pile and like the rest in another. Or I guess maybe not exactly that, but the fact that it's in combat means that they are going to be risking getting their creature eaten if you're making a 4/4 or 5/5. So you're gonna be up a card in addition to what you're actually drawing a lot of the time with this card too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like I think the 0/5 split will actually be a lot more common than people expect.
Yes, no, I totally agree. No, really great card. What do you want to give it? I think it's probably just in the A range, just drawing cards, making a big
I think it's an A.
Yeah, I was giving True on the Mind A. Nice. Now we got a pretty quick F here. I think Conspiracy Unraveler, 5 blue for a Mythic Detective Sphinx. It's a 6/6 flyer, and it says you may collect evidence 10 rather than pay the mana value of spells that you cast.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to give it an F.
Yeah.
I think it's bad.
No, not quite an F, yeah, because it's still like a fine flyer, and you might get a spell for free once, like, when you cast it. But
right, and if you do, like, if you have something else that you've expensive that you can cast for free, it's, like, kind of sweet, but yeah, I'll give it, like a D minus.
Yeah, the gentleman's D minus.
Yeah, but it can get played sometime, and it won't be totally
Yeah, I know, I agree. Okay, that brings us to black. What's our first black card?
Our first black card is Case of the Stashed Skeleton, which of course is a case. It's 1 and a black for a rare. When this case enters the battlefield, create a 2/1 black skeleton token and suspect it. So that means it has menace it can't block. To solve it, you control no suspected skeletons, so you have to either unsuspect it or have it die. And then once it's solved, you can pay 1 and a black to sacrifice this case and search your library for any card, put it into your hand.
Sweet card. Yeah. There's another kind of like nice little package. So like the joke is like, okay, you want to sacrifice the skeleton, or the opponent's going to be faced with the decision of like, well, I could keep taking 2 off this thing or trade, but then they get basically you get to draw a demonic tutor to get any card from your deck. Yeah, cards just...
Yeah, and I didn't mention it is sorcery for the demonic tutor as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
but no, this card's, I think it's really good. Like,
yeah, really good. Yeah, nothing to complain about. Truly. I guess it's you're paying a creature that inherently can't block, so like that's the one little knock against it. But no, I like this card a lot.
Is it like a B plus?
Yeah, I think I was gonna go B plus. Yeah, I was thinking A minus, B plus, but Yeah, I'll go
Yeah,
B
I was
plus.
kind of between there as well, but I think B plus is probably fair.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another black 2-drop here. Homicide Investigator. 1 in a black for a 2/2 human detective at rare. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control dies, you investigate, but this only triggers once per turn.
Yeah, but that's still great.
Yeah, it's very simple. Nothing wrong with it. It's the classic like Midnight Reaper style card. When your creatures die, you draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing to complain about with this one. Very simple, not over the top. I think it's just I'd give it a B.
Yeah, I think B's fair.
Cool. All right, what do we have next?
Spreadsheet. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Next, we have Outrageous Robbery. X black for an instant, which is rare. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast it.
Yeah, so draw a bunch of cards off your opponent's deck at instant speed.
You don't sound excited about that.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm trying to nail down like how much I like it, because it's like drawing cards off your opponent's deck is always a little bit worse than drawing them off your deck.
Well, to a point.
Yeah,
right?
to a point, definitely. When you get to like card quantity, and it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like once you get to a high enough number, you'd rather be doing it to them.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, too. Especially because this is more efficient than a draw spell for you would normally be, right? Usually they'd cost us like 3 and an X or something. Yeah, no, I do like it, and especially like your grindy black deck, green black, blue black, something like that. Seems like a pretty good card. Like like a good draw spell, I guess is maybe a way to frame it.
Yeah, like C plus type of thing.
Yeah, I give it a C plus for Outrageous Robbery. Cool card.
Okay.
Hunted Bone Brute. I thought it was Oh wait, it is Hunted. Yeah, Hunted Bone Brute, because it's a callback to the Hunted cycle from OG Ravnica. 2 in a black for a 6/2 menace. This is a rare. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2 white 1/1 dog creature tokens, and when it dies, each opponent loses 3 life. When the Bone Brute dies, each opponent loses 3 life. It also has Disguise for 1 in a black. So you're paying 3 mana for a 6/2 menace that if you just cast it straight up, your opponent gets a little something, gets 2 dogs. But if you go for the hoop of disguising it first, they won't get that.
Yeah, very fitting that the dogs want the bones.
Yeah,
like it's
very cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 is a lot.
The normal play pattern for this is going to be to disguise it, I think.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, like playing this face up is asking to get in trouble, but paying basically 5 mana for a 6/2 menace that when it dies they lose 3 life. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, just going like play a 2, play a 3 on turn 4, flip this up, hit them for 6. Like 6 is they aren't gonna be able to take 6 for very long, and then they take 3 on the way out a lot of the time. Yeah, I like this one.
This is like C plus, B minus type of thing.
I was just gonna give it a B. I think it's a little bit better than that. Like I said it like 3 times, but 6 is a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go B minus then.
I like it. Barbed Servitor. This is an interesting one. 3 and a black for a 1/1. It's indestructible. It's an artifact creature at rare. When it enters the battlefield, suspect it. So kind of indestructible, but can't block. When it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and you lose a life. And when Barbed Servitor is dealt damage, target opponent loses that much life.
Yeah, so first, let's talk about like rocking this card, right? Like I think this is kind of like a Phyrexian Arena that has both players lose a life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way.
Right? Because you don't like if opponents have to double block it, and if they do, they're taking a ton of damage, and this thing isn't dying. So that's not going to be what they want to do. So if it's unblockable, can't block, deals them 1, and then you draw 1 and lose a life. So I kind of see it like like a double-sided Phyrexian Arena, which is not terrible.
Is it not terrible? I don't know. Like, ugh.
It's not an F. However,
No.
I did want to mention that there is the 1 mana green thing that has an opponent sacrifice an artifact or enchantment or a creature with flying, and that absolutely hoses this thing.
It does. The joke too is you unsuspect it at some point potentially. There are
Yes,
cards that can
that's another. Yes,
Yeah, then it
yes.
becomes a stuffy doll, or it just like
Yeah,
sits
I don't think
back.
there's many ways to do that.
No, there aren't very many things that unsuspect things. So you're mostly evaluating it as just like you said, the Phyrexian arena for both players. You're both losing life. You're drawing the cards. And I agree. It's not an F, but I don't think I'm very high on the card if that's the case. If you've got a lot of happen to have a lot of things that unsuspect it, cool. But I think I would just give this like a D. Otherwise,
I was gonna go D plus. Oh, you know what? You know what this is cute with?
what?
There's that the split card that makes a creature block.
Oh, Hustle Bustle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, okay. And then
If you force their big thing to block, then they need to double block it.
that's cute. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Where did you said D plus for this?
Yeah, I said D plus.
Okay, yeah, I'll just stick with my D. We
Okay.
got Illicit Masquerade. It's an enchantment at rare. 3 and a black for it's got flash. When Illicit Masquerade enters the battlefield, put an imposter counter on each creature you control. Whenever a creature you control with an imposter counter dies, exile it, then return up to one other target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah, weird card.
Very weird card. So you're like, it's like Wrath protection, but it's also a double reanimate if you can set it up right, where you like flash it in, put a counter on something in combat that like brings back a creature from the graveyard basically with the thing that died as well.
Yeah, it's like you're also a lot of black cards want you to collect evidence, so you like because you really need to have multiple creatures in your graveyard to get the most out of this.
Yeah, that's one of like just the tensions in general, and this is not a this set specific thing, but when you've got a deck that you've got a mechanic that wants you to fill your graveyard, they also tend to plant things that like let you use your graveyard in other ways that aren't just, for example, in this case, collecting evidence, the main thing, but that like is a tension. So it's kind of like, okay, here's another thing that you can do with self-mill, but it doesn't necessarily play well in those decks because you're going to be exiling from some of the grave. So yeah, that aside though, it's kind of like a weird victimize, which is another card we're actually going to get to way later when we talk about the list. But yeah, it's finicky. It's pretty powerful, but I think it might be a little too finicky.
Yeah, I'm starting off as this thing is not great.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
I don't think I'm going to put it that low though. Like I think it has potential. I was going to give it like a C minus.
Yeah, that's where exactly what I was going to give it to. Yeah, it has potential, but not really going to do the thing every time. It has a little bit of awkwardness. All right, what do we have next?
Massacre Girl, Known Killer. 2 black for a mythic 4/4 human assassin. So we do have another assassin type. It has menace. Creatures you control have wither, which is something we haven't seen in a long time. So that means they deal damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if its toughness was less than 1, draw a card.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Yes.
Yeah, really annoying. If you haven't played with Wither before, it really messes up combat, like your intuition of like how combat should work. You're like, I got a 5/5, and then if you're like, I got a 3/3, I'm still sending it in sometimes, you know. And also usually Wither was on small creatures because dealing damage in the form of -1 is pretty powerful. It's just granted to all your creatures, so like your 4/4s are going to do that too.
Yeah, this thing, and even like there are some other removal spells that give -X, -X, like -4, -4,
yeah.
or -X, -X.
Good point.
So there's other ways to draw cards off of this thing too. It's just like if you trade with something, you're drawing a card, they have to double block it. This just like I'm somewhere between A- and an A, and I think it might just be an A.
Yeah, I was gonna go A. Like initially, I was thinking, okay, it doesn't have immediate impact, but it kind of does because your opponent can't do that much in the combat you cast it, right? They're not gonna really want to block sometimes. Your small creatures can maybe peck in, and you won't care too much about if they get blocked because they like you have a 1/1, they have a 2/2. What are they gonna do? Block it? No, because then both die and you draw a card. Yeah, I'll give it an A. I think the balance is out to about an A.
Sure.
Sweet. All right, Deadly Cover-Up is up next. 3 black for a sorcery at rare. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you can collect evidence 6. It destroys all creatures. So 5 mana Wrath. If evidence was collected, exile a card from an opponent's graveyard. Search the library, or search the owner's graveyard, hand, library for any number of cards with that name, exile them, that player shuffles, and then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. So, your classic extraction effect.
Yeah, but this notably doesn't say non-land, which
No.
is unusual, but not like super relevant.
No,
Could
no.
be.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, this usually, unless you're really like, okay, I need to, my deck has a lot of other collect evidence things, that you're going to want to collect evidence to see their hand, to see their deck. Like, that's very valuable. I think people underrate seeing what's in the opponent's hand as a good thing. And we talked about the white field wipe, the one that gives your opponent a clue. Black's going to want a field wipe way more than a white deck is going to in this format. So
Yes,
this has
I
that
agree.
over that too.
Yeah, I think this card's decent.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna give it not a super high grade. I think Wraths have a bit of a limit if they don't have much upside, but
Right.
like C plus type of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna give it Daily Cover up a C plus. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Vein Ripper is up next. 3 black for a vampire assassin. Once again, this is a mythic. It's a 6/5 flying creature. It's got ward, sacrifice a creature, and whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
Yeah, so you're really gonna want to target this with the removal that says can't be countered.
Yeah, because if you just think about the play pattern, of course, then they go to target this. You have to sacrifice a creature. You're gonna get a drain on the way out. Yeah, cool design.
Yeah, but this thing is like a ridiculous bomb otherwise.
Yeah, and black isn't. It's not going to be guaranteed on turn 6, but by the time you're at turn 6, you're much more likely than if you had like a 4-mana black card or something like that. So yeah, just big old flying dragon with some protection. I'd give this a bordering on A-. I'm not sure if A or A- or A. Maybe I think probably A, just because if it sticks, you're just so likely to win. Honestly, it comes down and your opponent sometimes just dies because they can't block.
Yes.
They can't. So that probably means, in the A range too. So, or just as an A. So yeah, I'll give Vein Ripper an A.
Okay, you talked yourself into the grade I'd already written down. For
Nice,
both
great.
lists.
Excellent. All right, first red card. What do we have?
Connecting the dots. 1 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. And then you can pay 1 and a red, discard your hand, and sacrifice connecting the dots to put all the cards exiled with connecting the dots into their owner's hands.
Okay, so like a slow card draw spell. Not doing too much for a while. It's good if your deck is like super, like, you're talking about there might be a mono red deck in this format. If you've got like a super low to the ground mono red deck, like you might see in Constructed, yeah, this is going to be a card that you're interested in, but I don't think it's going to be just a generically good card you're going to throw in your deck.
Like it's a bit weird because it does draw a ton of cards.
Yeah,
like
it does.
Each creature triggers this each combat, right? Yeah. But if you're doing a lot of attacking, like you might just be more likely to win if this was a combat trick.
Right, so. Exactly. I was have to think about like what was this replacing? What's the opportunity cost? Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with what I just laid out, where if you've got a really low curve, the lower your curve is, the better this is, because not only are you just going to dump your hand quicker, but then the cards you draw, you can deploy quicker after that. So build around with a low curve, basically. And I think it's like a something in the B range, maybe B- or C plus-ish. Like I think I'd lay on B- for a low to the ground mono red deck, and then maybe like a C on average in most other decks.
Yeah, I wrote down C. I think C's fair. Yeah.
Nice. All right, second red card here, Fugitive Codebreaker. 1 red for a 2/1 at rare. It's got Prowess and Haste and Disguise for 6 mana, 5 and a red, but it costs 1 less for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard to disguise. And whenever the Codebreaker's turn face up, discard your hand, draw 3 cards.
Yeah, another really elegant design. Like you want lots of instant sorceries, kind of like the Rakdos rare that we saw a little bit earlier. But this really rewards you if you have a bunch of instant sorceries in your deck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really nice. You're going to play it on 2, just a good amount of the time. Just get in there, bashing for 2. That's your 2-drop. But yeah, and the thing is, it's not even that. Sure, it's nice to play it with spells, but if you dump your hand, this is sitting around, you flip it up for like 5 mana or 4 mana, that's not that bad either. That's just not that bad. Yeah, really nice card. This is exactly what you're talking about, by the way. Like, just to bring us all back to what Mark was saying at the beginning. We've seen a lot of these cheap 2-mana, 3-mana rares, and they're not the LCI level rares. Where just like, you need to kill this right now or you die. I mean, there's been one or two, but like this is like, you got to kill this, you got to interact with it, but like it's not just game over when they cast it. So yeah, what do you want to give it?
Like a B?
Yeah, I'm gonna go B- on Codebreaker,
Okay.
but seems good. Pyrotechnic Performer is up next. 1 in a red for a 3/2 at rare. Another assassin. It's got disguise for a single red mana, and whenever Pyrotechnic Performer or another creature you control is turned face up, that creature deals damage equal to its power to each opponent.
Yeah, which could be a very relevant line of text.
Yeah.
I do think the default's going to be to cast this for 2 mana. But late game, if you draw this, it can just kill somebody.
Yeah,
again.
just like dome it for 5. Yeah, red-green deck is probably the best home for this. Yeah, nice little card. Not as good as like some of the other 2-mana cards we've seen, I think, but pretty solid. I did this like a C+, maybe? You know
I
what?
was going to go B.
I was gonna say, yeah, no, it's just being a 3/2. A 3/2 is good enough. Yeah, so
yeah.
let's give it. I'd give it a B-.
Okay.
Just gonna have a solid B then.
Yep.
Okay,
solid
sweet.
B.
All right, next card.
Next one is Expedited Inheritance. Red for a mythic enchantment. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, its controller may exile that many cards from the top of their library. They may play those cards until the end of their next turn.
No thanks.
It's not just you. This is both players, just notably, and this is I think this is a quick F.
Yep, I'm gonna go to the next one here. Case of the Crimson Pulse. 2 in a red for a rare case. First ability is when this case enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. You solve it by having no cards in hand, and the solve reward is at the beginning of your upkeep. Discard your hand and draw 2 cards.
Yeah, so notably, it doesn't say discard a card, and then if you do, draw 2 cards.
Yep, it's got that tricky wording.
So this type of card, like this card's really interesting because you can afford to mulligan more
when it's in your deck, right? Just like
when it's in your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you could, if you have like an OK 7, feel free going to 6. And then if you have an OK 6, like you can go down to like 4 cards. And then if as long as you find this thing, it just immediately spots you 2, and then it'll flip, and then like you're suddenly you're back in the game again.
Yeah, it's not like you shouldn't aggressively mulligan, but like if you're playing a deck with this card, like just on the voting, whenever I look at my opening hand, I'm thinking, should I mulligan this? There's like certain things that vote towards mulliganing or not. Like I don't have a 2, I don't have my colors, whatever. This being in your deck is a vote towards mulliganing if you're on the fence.
Yeah, because it's just gonna spot, like you're drawing 3 cards a turn once it's solved.
Yeah, cool card. What do you want to grade it though?
I mean, it's just cards. It's no board impact.
Right.
So there's certainly a cap on it. I'm gonna say like a B-.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna give it to. Seems
Okay.
good. All right, Krenko has returned. Krenko, Baron of Tin Street. 2 in a red for a 3/3 goblin at rare, a legendary creature. It's got haste, tap, sacrifice an artifact. Put a +1/+1 counter on each goblin you control, including Krenko. And whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay red. If you do, you create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It gains haste until end of turn. And rules knowledge here is that you sacrifice something, this ability goes in the stack, and asks you, would you like to pay 1? And go, sure. You make a token, and then the +1/+1 counter ability will resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another rules thing here: clues do go to the graveyard. Tokens that are artifacts do go to the graveyard momentarily. It'll trigger this. It just doesn't stay there.
Yes.
Great
yeah,
card.
and it doesn't even have to be like sacrifice. Like you can trade a Thopter also and like trigger this too.
Yeah, fantastic card. Really good. Just like
Yeah.
even just like
Also just a free 3.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. I think Krenko's an A.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there.
Awesome. All right, what do we have next?
Lamplight Phoenix. 1 red for a 3/3 rare. It has flying, and when it dies, you may exile it and collect evidence 4. If you do, return it to the battlefield tapped.
That's wild. You sometimes
Great.
these like Phoenixes are more constructed, pointed. It's like you have to cast 2 burn spells to the face. This is just like a good card, great card.
Yeah,
Nice.
and a lot of these cards usually can't block. Like this thing can block.
Mm-hmm. And the deal 2 in this set doesn't exile, or the deal 3 doesn't exile like it sometimes does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really great card. This another A?
Another A? Yeah.
Great. Yeah, A for Lamplight Phoenix.
This is what I alluded to about I said I wish that the best rares had not been red and white.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good red rares.
It is true. Yeah, definitely true. All right, we have the one that's been making some people quite angry with the templating on this card for constructed formats. Krenko's Buzz Crusher, 2 red for a 4/4 artifact creature Insectopter at rare. It's got flying and trample, and that's basically the extent of this card for limited. It's 4 red flying trampler for 4. Pretty good stat line, but I will read the rest. When Krenko's Buzz Crusher enters the battlefield, for each player, destroy up to 1 non-basic land that player controls. For each land destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle. It's gonna come up once in a while. You destroy their their mana fixing land or something. The reason people are upset about this in constructed is because this does blow up Lotus Field, which has hexproof because this doesn't say target. You just choose the land. Anyways, not that relevant for us. But how do you rate a 4 mana 4/4 flying trampler?
Pretty good. Although it is an artifact, which I think is a downside.
It is. Yep, like we mentioned yesterday, definitely a little bit of a downside, but not too big of a downside. I'd give Buzz Crusher a B.
B? I was gonna go B+.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, so we've got another quick F. Adds Ansgrag's Rampage, 3 red for a sorcery at rare. Destroy all artifacts you don't control. Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put into graveyards to the battlefield this turn. You may put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to the end step. Return to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So I guess I was a little quick on the F. It's more of a sideboard card. If your opponent's like a heavy artifact deck, you can put this in.
Sure. I'm still gonna give it an F.
That's totally fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Here's not an F. Incinerator of the Guilty. 4 red for a 6/6 flying trample dragon at Mythic. When Incinerator of the Guilty deals combat damage to a player, you can collect evidence X. When you do, Incinerator of the Guilty deals X damage to each creature and each planeswalker that player controls.
A+?
A+, yeah, just attacks and kills other stuff. This card's phenomenal.
Easy A+. Yeah.
Great. All right, moving on to green. Just chugging along here. What's our first green card?
Analyze the Pollen. Green for a rare sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may collect evidence 8. Search your library for a basic land. If evidence was collected, instead you can search for any land or a creature. Reveal that card, put it into your hand, and shuffle.
Yeah, we've seen kind of these Lay of the Land split cards at rare sometimes where you fulfill a condition, you can upgrade it to go get, a creature or something better. And yeah, that's fine. That's what you want to do. You want to replace a land with this, a non-forest, ideally. You want to have enough green sources to cast this as a land. So you're basically going down to 16 and counting this as your land. And then later, it'll draw you a creature. It's like a value land in some ways.
Yeah, it's like a C.
Yeah, I just give it a Z. Analyze the Pollen.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Sharp-Eyed Rookie. 1 and a green for a 2/2 human detective at rare. It's got vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if its power is greater than Sharp-Eyed Rookie's power, or its toughness is greater than Sharp-Eyed Rookie's toughness, put a +1/+1 counter on Sharp-Eyed Rookie and investigate. Say that 10 times fast. Very hard. So it basically has Evolve, right? For people who played with Evolve before. And when it evolves, you investigate.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah. Really nice. Just it is kind of funny, though, because the natural play pattern in this set is going to be you're going to play a disguised creature, so you're incentivized to play something else other than a disguised creature on turn 3.
Yes, you'd almost rather this started off as a 1/1, funnily enough.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you know Arya on Twitter. She went to work for WotC for a while. She's saying she had a hand designing this card, and it was a 2/1 for a while, and they were like, let's nerf it a little bit by making it a 2/2.
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's still quite good.
Yeah, no, it is still pretty darn good. So yeah, what do you want to give it?
I think I want to give it a maybe.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. I like A-. It's just the classic. We've seen this with a lot of cards, but it's if you do the thing once on this rare, you're pretty darn happy about it, and it scales from there. So I'll join you.
Okay.
Archdruid's Charm. This says green for an instant at rare. You can choose one. Search your library for a creature or a land card, reveal it. Put it on the battlefield if it's a land. Otherwise, if it's a creature, you put it into your hand, then shuffle. Second mode, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Or exile target artifact or enchantment. Kind of like a 5-mode card, really. It's like destroy an artifact, exile an artifact or enchantment, go search for a land or a creature, or fight something.
I think the most common use is going to be the middle one.
Yeah.
Like the the +1/+1 and punch. That we've seen that before for 2 and a green, kill shot or whatever it is. It's been really good. And I do think I talked a little bit about mono green yesterday. I don't think the casting cost is totally unacceptable.
No, you just got to keep it in consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And especially green's going to be the color that helps you cast this card a little bit easier, both with fixing, and there's like the green, the mana dork at 2 mana at common that makes green mana. So yeah, you can put this card in your deck, and it's going to be pretty good. Just count your sources, right? You want to have like 10, 11 green sources somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume with that number of sources, it would be like a C+.
Yeah,
because it's not really going to cost 3, right? It's going to cost like 5-ish most of the time because you'll need more than 3 mana sources.
Yeah, I agree. So I agree with that. Okay, what's next?
Audience with Trostani. 2 and a green for a sorcery, which is a rare. Create a 0/1 plant creature token, then draw cards equal to the number of differently named creature tokens you control.
Creature tokens can't do clues. That's unfortunate.
But I mean, if you have a Killer Among Us,
there you go,
which is an uncommon, like you're drawing 4 cards.
That is pretty nice. Yeah, get your Merfolk, your Goblin.
The only place I would like if I had multiple Killer Among Us, I would play this. Otherwise, it's probably just enough.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just like a divination that doesn't work half the time. Like you get an 0/1 draw card. That's not worth 3 mana.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's going to give it an F. There's going to be some spots where like, oh, okay, like I might be able to entertain that here, but not in very many decks.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to give it a D- just because I think it does work nicely with an uncommon in this.
Yeah, no, I'll join you there. Undergrowth Recon, 1 green for an enchantment at Mythic. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That's it. This is a commander card, I'm pretty sure. For a second I was like, ooh, with the Evolving Wilds variant, like it's not that bad. You get to get a land every turn, but it's every other turn, right? Because you like it comes in and tapped, and okay, so we can just give this one an F.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Axebane Ferox, 2 green for a 4/4 rare beast. It has Death Touch, it has haste, and ward collect evidence 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that collect evidence is going to be super relevant.
No.
Most decks won't care about their graveyard. I think, like, if we assume Jeskai is going to be the normal pattern of play, but 4/4 Death Touch haste for 4 mana, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it does mean that in a lot of games they're not going to be able to target it when it comes down, right? Because like it's not guaranteed that stuff's trade off. The cast the spell is worth 4 mana, so they'll probably have to wait a turn. Although this guy's creatures trade off. That's a way to get collect 4 into the graveyard pretty quickly. But yeah, just a really efficient card.
B+?
Yeah, B+. Exactly where I would land too.
Okay.
Case of the Locked Hothouse. This is 3 and a green for, of course, a case at rare. First ability, this is the static. You can play an additional land on each of your turns. To solve the case, you control 7 or more lands. And the solved reward is you can look at the top card of your library anytime. And you can play lands and cast creatures and enchantments from the top of your library.
I think it's just an F. It's too expensive.
Yeah, it's really tough too, because when you get to that solved portion, you really start to go off, because you can play 2 lands a turn. Like usually with these like future sight effects, you kind of brick when you hit your second land, but you go play 2 lands and then keep on going. I don't think it's quite an F. I think it's more of like a build around. I have a bunch of mana sources, I guess, lands in my deck, or ways to find lands. Like I think it's going to be good enough if you're like a grindy green deck.
Okay. All right. You talked me up to a D.
Okay. I was going to give it a C. Like I was going to give like a build around C, and that might be too high. I can totally admit that. But I just see like that solved case is not, or that solved top end, it's not impossible to get to. We just had twists and turns in the last set, which I know is cheaper.
Cost 1
I know.
mana.
I'm just saying getting to 7 mana. But like,
and it spotted you a land.
It spotted, yeah. Maybe that's the best comparison. I'm just saying I think it's not an F. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see though. Yeah, it is really rough that it doesn't do that much the turn it comes down. I will definitely admit that. I'm not trying to talk it up too much. Hidden in plain sight. Up next, this is a rare
Hide in plain sight.
hide in plain sight. Sorry, hide in plain sight. It's a rare sorcery. 3 and a green. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Cloak 2 of them, and put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. Sorry.
Yeah, like another neat way of just making 2/2/2s.
Yeah.
Essentially, with like a little bit of upside.
Mhm.
And they have ward. This card's good.
Yeah, I like it. Nothing to complain about. You're paying 4 mana for 2/2/2s with ward 2, and then they might get bigger.
Is it like a B?
Yeah, I just give it a B. Nice.
Okay.
This is a funny one. The Pride of Hugclade, 10 and a green, so 11 mana for a 2/15. I don't think we've ever had that stat line before. It's a legendary creature, Crocodile Elk Turtle at Mythic. It costs X less to cast, or X is the total toughness of creatures you control. It's got Defender, and it's got the ability 2 blue. Until end of turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. Draw cards equal to its toughness, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender.
Yeah, so you probably don't want to use that on this thing because drawing 15 cards is way too many cards.
Yeah.
But having that passive ability to like attack creatures in, and then like you can use that as an instant. So if your creature gets through, you can draw like a couple cards here and there. And I don't think this is totally uncastable.
No, because like just imagine you play a 2/2, you play a disguised creature, you play another thing on turn 5. It's gonna cost 5 mana sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's an F. It's a weird card, but I don't think it's just like straight you shouldn't play it, because it makes all your attackers very threatening. It also, you can throw around a point of power here and there. It's also just a 2/15, like that's gonna block everything.
Right.
So are you just gonna throw this in your average blue-green deck, I guess is the question.
I think I'm gonna throw it in most of my blue-green decks. So I think I'll give it like a C.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna land too. Nice, yeah.
Okay.
Sweet. All right, and we're out of the colors. We've got the list coming up. We've got some colorless cards. Cryptex up next. 2 mana for an artifact at rare. Tap to collect evidence 3, and then when you do so, you add 1 mana of any color. Put an unlock counter on the Cryptex, and then it says sacrifice Cryptex to travail 3, and then draw 3 cards. Only activate this if Cryptex has 5 or more unlock counters on it.
Good grief, like terrible.
A lot of hoops to jump through. Yeah, I guess they were just afraid of a 2 mana rock, basically, is what that reads like to me, because there's a lot of evidence you have to collect for this.
I think it could be collect evidence 1, honestly.
Yeah. Is it just an F?
It's just an F.
Yeah, I think it's just too much. Yeah, agree. And then we've got this cycle that we talked about yesterday, the 10 dual lands. They are typed dual lands. So, for example, Commercial District here is the red-green one. It's got the mountain forest type line, so it's fetchable by things that say go search out a land with a basic land type, although not a basic land as a distinction. They come in tapped, and when they enter the battlefield, you surveil 1. So sort of like Scry lands with a little bit of upside.
Yeah, these things are great.
Yeah, really nice. And like we mentioned, I want to try this out again, that you're going to see these 1 in every 6 packs, and they're not going to be in the rare slot. You're going to get these in the wild card slot, 1 out of 6 packs that you open. So kind of cool.
Yes, they will be, notably, if anyone's really keeping track, they will be in slot. I had it here. I lost it. Slot 13.
There you go.
So that's where you'll see these.
And just a nice peruse through the very nice art here as we get to our next cards. They're actually really nice art on these. I would recommend taking a look at them. But now we're at the list. Okay, so Mark, what is the list?
So are we just giving these all Bs?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't grade the lands. Sorry. Yeah, let's give the lands Bs. But okay. Yeah, what's the list?
I think Bs are good. Yeah, so now we get to the list, which is kind of like having a bonus sheet, but you're going to see these a lot less frequently because like bonus sheets, you'd see 1 of them every pack typically. So in slot 7 of every pack now, for those paying close attention, there will either be a common or a card from the list or from the special guest. And we covered this yesterday, but 87.5% of the time, it's just going to be a normal common. So that's going to be the vast majority. 9.38% of the time, it'll be one of the 30 common and uncommons that we're about to see. And then 1.56% of the time, it'll be one of the 10 rare or mythic list cards we're going to see after that. And then finally, 1.56% of the time, it'll be one of the 10 special guest cards we're going to do at the end.
Yeah.
So we will be covering, all 50 of those, 40 list cards and 10 special guest cards. And also, we'll get here as well. We'll re-explain this when we get here. But they have decided to swap 3 cards from the list for paper compared to digital. So there are basically 37 list cards that you'll see in both paper and arena, and then 3 that are specific to each.
Yeah, and they are, I believe, 1 out of every 8 packs. I think you're going to see a list card. So we're not going to, I think a lot of these we're going to kind of like zoom through because they're either going to be Fs, there's some like kind of commander cards in here, or they're cards that we've seen pretty recently, and we just kind of can go, okay, we know what this is going to be, not too much discussion. But the first one here is a card that I'm sure not a lot of people have played with, Putrid Warrior. Black, white for a 2/2. It's a zombie soldier. And it says when Putrid Warrior deals damage, choose one. Each player loses a life or each player gains a life. And that's to a creature or a player. That's not just deals damage to the opponent.
Yeah, it's decent in Apocalypse Limited, but I mean, it's still a 2/2 for 2, which is fine.
It's a 2/2 for 2, or like gains you life or gains both players life, or both players lose. Like most player loses a life is what you're going to do, because like both players gaining a life doesn't really make that much sense. Usually you're going to do we both go down a life and I'm an aggro deck.
Well, no, it can block and gain a life.
Sure. Oh, that's true. Yeah, if you're defensive.
It's like the ability is better than it seems.
Yeah. So this is like a C-, a D+. Like it's just a bear with a little bit of upside.
I mean, in black white, I think I'm playing all of these. I was just gonna give it a C+.
Just a C+? Okay, I'm gonna land at C. I think it's a little too vanilla, but I don't hate the card. Oh, and by the way, like if you're just tuning in or just haven't taken close look at what the list is, what kind of cards are on the list, I think we should explain that quickly. It's nothing too specific. It's not like the sheets we've had from Strixhaven, the bonus sheets of Wilds of Eldraine. They are cards that do play well for the most part in this limited format, or have some relation to mechanic in this limited format, or thematically with the set. Sometimes there'll be oddballs that don't do it, that are very weird, and it's like, why is that one in here? But it's kind of like more of a thematic, these kind of make sense in this set kind of set of cards. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, and these cards are so rare that I wouldn't be surprised if the rares and mythics like never even get that on 17 lands.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know if I said this, but this Putrid Warrior is common. Okay, we've got our next one here, Burden of Guilt. Single white mana for a common. It's an aura. And the enchanted creature has the ability, enchant creature, and the Burden of Guilt has the ability 1 to tap enchanted creature. So it's almost like an icy manipulator for what the creature you put this on.
Yeah, this card's bad, right?
Yeah, very bad. Like Icy's already had the problem in recent years of being like keep spending a mana every turn, and that's been like over the years Icy's gotten a little bit worse, and just this sucks because you just can't move it over. You have to lock it into the one thing. So it's
all right. Let's give it enough.
Let's give it enough and move on. Exactly.
Yeah, we'll go through these reasonably quickly.
All right. Hard Evidence up next. Single blue mana for a sorcery at common. Investigate and create a 0/3 blue crab creature token. So it's like a inspector, a novice inspector, right? An inspector, but you shift the power to the toughness.
Which does make it worse.
Worse, but still good.
Still good. Yeah. This is like a B- type of thing.
Yeah, I would just give it a B. I think the card's still really good.
Okay.
Cool. Next up, we've got Kuldultha Rebirth. This is a single red mana for a sorcery. It's a common. As an additional cost to cast it, you sack an artifact, and you can put 3 1/1 goblin creature tokens to the battlefield. So we saw this recently in Gleeful Demolition from Phyrexia, although that one targeted your opponent's things if you wanted to. This only, you have to sacrifice an artifact to do the thing.
I think this thing's bad.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, you can imagine a deck with a bunch of clues. Maybe that's not so bad.
I don't want to sack a clue.
Yeah, you want to draw a card. Exactly.
I want to draw a card. Yeah.
I don't think it's quite enough. I think if you have
I wrote D- for myself.
Yeah, I was going to go D. I'll go D on
Okay.
Kuldultha Rebirth. All right, what's next?
Next, we have Gnawed of the Bone. 2 and a green for an instant. Gain 2 life for each creature card in your graveyard, and flashback for 2 and a green. Innistrad, banger, but with collecting evidence, another card that I think is not very good.
Yeah, this one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think this one's just probably going to be an F2.
Yeah, okay.
Croson Tusker. Here's a cool one. 5 green for a 6/5 at common. It's got cycling for 2 and a green, and when you cycle Croson Tusker, you can search your library for a land card, a basic land card, reveal that, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So when you cycle it, you draw a land and a random card.
Yeah, and you can choose whether you draw the card first or whether you get the land first.
Yeah, pretty sweet. Big collect evidence thing, I guess, is kind of the why it's here.
This card's good.
Oh, chat's disagreeing with that. You have to get the land first, it says. Yeah, I think that's right, actually. You have to get the land first, because it's just a tree that goes in the stack. Because it's like, you cycle it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not how I played this when I was back
in my
teen years and first playing Apocalypse. I thought you could choose. Maybe I just always chose the one that was legal.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
That's funny. Okay.
So, yeah, I think this card's pretty good still. Just like green divination that puts something in the yard, or you can cast it as a reasonable creature if you have the mana, draw it late game. Fixes you, you know?
Yeah, like C+?
Yeah, I'd give Croson Tusker C+. I agree.
Sure.
Shard of Broken Glass. Single mana for an equipment. Equip 1. The equipped creature gets +1/+0. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, you can put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one to reprint.
Yeah, but I don't think it's good, right?
It's not quite unplayable, though,
No,
is it?
it's not. Yeah. +1/+0, and for 1 in the mill. If you have to care about the mill, though.
Right, but I think some decks will.
Sure.
Like, I guess it has to attack then, and if you're...
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't see myself playing this card, to be honest. I'm going to give this an F.
I'll give it a D-.
Okay, fair enough. Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot. 2 mana for an artifact at common. When it ETBs, you draw a card and lose a life. And it also has 2 and a black to sack it to do the same. Draw a card, lose a life. Yeah.
Not great, not terrible.
It's pretty darn efficient. It's a 5 mana lose 2 divination.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty close to it.
You think it's unplayable?
In Kaladesh, you didn't really want to play this card. In this, there was like way heavier artifacts energies. So yeah, I'm gonna go F.
Okay, sure. I'll give it an F as well then. I was gonna give it somewhere in the D's, but sure.
High Alert. 1 blue-white for an enchantment at uncommon. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender, and it has the ability 2 white-blue to untap target creature.
Yeah, so not optional there. So you will have a lot of creatures with more power in this set, and this will be a downside. But there are a couple of things with huge toughness, right? There's the 110 and there's the 215.
Yeah, you can cook with this card. Like, I don't think it's just going to be like a great card to take and build around, but you're going to play it here and there.
Yeah, so like this is a D then. It'll be very rare, but it'll come up once in a while.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, this is a conversation is more important than the grade kind of card. Oh, yeah. My arch nemesis, Quintorius, he's back. Quintorius, Field Historian. 5 mana, this is the OG Quintorius. 3 red, white for a 2/4. Elephant Cleric at uncommon. Spirits you control get +1/+0. And whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token.
So it's, funnily enough, I think it's easier to trigger this in this set than it is in
Strixhaven,
but it's not in like these colors.
It's in the complete wrong colors, right? Just like exactly not what you want. I can't imagine this is going to make it into any decks.
No, I don't think so. It's probably just an F.
All right, F, cool. Enlisted Worm. This is kind of a banger. 4 green, white for a 5/5 at uncommon. Got Cascade. So Cascade, just like Discover. But if you haven't played with Cascade, the difference between it and Discover is you exile the top part of your library. You hit something that it references Enlisted Worm's mana cost. So you have to hit something that is 5 or less. Where normally on a Discover card, it would just say Discover 5. And you have to cast the card. You can't put it into your hand. It's not like if you draw your counter spell, you're out of luck, basically. Good card.
Good card, though. Yeah. B-?
Yeah, I think B- for Enlisted Worm. We're just getting a pretty good body and gonna get something else too. Ooh, here's one of my favorite cards actually of all time. Consign to Oblivion. So this is a split card, but an Aftermath split card. So there's two halves. The top one, you just cast from your hand. The bottom one, you have to cast from the graveyard. So you basically have to discard this or mill this or whatever, or cast the front side. So Consign is 1 and a blue, instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Oblivion is 4 and a black, sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards.
Yeah. So late game, you just bounce their thing and then you discard it. Is the idea?
Yeah, exactly. And even if you don't like get the exact last card, sometimes you just like they have 3 cards. You bounce one, you bounce their biggest thing, you cast this, and it's still pretty good. So yeah, solid card. I would give it a C plus, I think.
B plus?
Yeah.
Sure. I was gonna go B minus, but
Cool. Ooh, here.
yeah, I'm still going.
Here's a really good one. Maverick Thopterus. This is 3 blue red for a 2/2 human artificer uncommon. It's got improvise, so you can tap just like Convoke, but for artifacts. Your artifacts can help you cast the spell. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1. So you've got 2 clues lying around. You can tap those and pay 3 mana to cast your Thopterus. So 5 mana 2/2, but when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying.
Yeah, I didn't play this. This is from Kaladesh, right?
Yeah.
I didn't play this set, but this card seems very
banger. This is like A range. This card is fantastic.
good. A range.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this an A minus. It's like 4 mana a lot of the time, and you're getting 2/2 and like 3 bodies. 2 of them are flying, and 2 powers on the ground to block.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go B plus just to be a little bit more conservative.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
I'm
enough.
looking forward to this.
Yeah, I do think this card's really, really good.
Okay.
Another one that's actually really, really good. Combine Chrysalis. This is a artifact at uncommon. It's blue-green, 2 mana, just blue-green. Creature tokens you control have flying, and has the ability to blue-green, tap, sacrifice a token, create a 4/4 green beast creature token, activate only as a sorcery.
Yeah, that sorcery line kind of sours the milk for me on this one.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Have you played with this card
It's
before?
like- No, I haven't. Are you telling me it's much better than that?
So this is a Modern Horizons 2 card, and that set was like littered with tokens. So, mind you,
Right.
it was trivial to activate this. You were just doing it basically every turn. But just the ability to turn your clues into 4/4s, that's pretty good. Like instead of cracking to draw a card, you crack to make a 4/4 for 4 mana. And then it's flying. It's 4 for flyer, right?
Yeah, so if I was sacrificing like treasure, I'd be
Mhm.
on board. If I was sacrificing like 1/1s, I'd be on board. But like clues are pretty good already.
I agree. So you're just saying like the risk of this doing nothing sometimes outweighs the upside of, because I do think it is better to crack your clues for 4 and make a 4/4 flyer rather than crack your clue for 2 and draw a card most of the time.
Right, but it's like 6 mana to get started,
Mhm.
and then 4 after that. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see this as being playable, but I'm not excited about it.
I don't think it's amazing, but I am a little bit excited about it. Like I was gonna give it a B minus.
Okay, I was thinking like a full
I guess a
letter
build
grade
around
lower.
B minus. You have to have like 8, 9, 10 token makers.
Yeah, sure. I'm still thinking. Okay, I'll go C, and we'll disagree on this one.
Okay.
and see where it ends up.
Yeah, sounds good. Stromkirk Captain is up next. 1 black-red for an uncommon 2/2 first strike. It's a vampire. Other vampires you control get +1/+1 and have first strike.
Yeah, there's a couple vampires randomly here and there,
Yeah.
but this body's like 2/2 first strike for 3 isn't like that terrible.
No, especially in the set, right? Like,
Yeah.
get kind of buffs that or attacks past and blocks the disguise creatures. Yeah. Would you play this? You think in a red black deck with no other vamps?
Some amount of the time, I
Yeah,
think.
sometimes it's gonna make your deck. I think that means that it's like a C.
Like a C?
And then
Yeah.
it gets better if you've got a lot of vampires. Although there's not a million vampires in the set. Nyx Weaver. This is a cool one. One black green, 3 mana for a 2/3 reach. It's an enchantment creature and uncommon. At the beginning of your upkeep, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. And has the ability 1 black green, exile Nyx Weaver, return target card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, this card's kind of neat. I haven't played this either, but it seems
Yeah.
like it's a good choice for a reprint here.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's gonna fill your grave. It's gonna block pretty well. At some point, you just sack it. It's an instant speed sacrifice too. So it's just,
Yep.
if the opponent wants to, they're gonna see your graveyard filling up and be like, okay, those are some options, and they have to kind of catch you with your pants down if they want to get rid of this and not have you buy back your best thing. So yeah, it's a pretty solid card. Nothing amazing, but I'd give it a C plus.
C plus?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll join you there.
Cool. Treacherous Terrain up next. 6 red-green for sorcery at uncommon. Treacherous Terrain deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of lands that player controls. And it's got basic land cycling for 2 mana.
Yeah, basic land cycling for 2 is interesting. Like the front side of this is almost flavor text, right? 8 mana is a lot.
Yeah, but you're going to cast it sometimes if you put it in your deck. Like, I would imagine, like, I don't know, 10% of the time or something. Maybe a little less.
So is this like, I don't know, a C minus?
Yeah, it's like a fixer for your evidence decks, right? Like, that's kind of what it's trying to do. I would give it like a D plus. I think. I think it's still not like you're gonna play. I think you're gonna play the Panther over this a lot more often than
right. And I'm not that high on the Panther
exactly.
either. So like,
yeah.
So you said C plus or D plus?
D plus. D plus.
D plus. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
Leonin Relic Warder up next. White for a 2/2 at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target artifact or enchantment, and then when it leaves, you return the exile card to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Right, so you can hit tokens with this, and they'll never come back.
Yep.
Seems really good.
Yeah, and worth noting, you can do the whole, this is the old template, so if you have a way to sacrifice this with the first ability on the stack, or bounce it, they actually just don't get their thing back, because what happens is, the first ability goes in the stack, and then you like, sacrifice the warder, the second ability goes in the stack, and it goes, okay, well, sure, return it, and there's nothing to return, so you just get to exile the thing for good.
I think this thing might be like a B minus.
Yeah, I think this thing's gonna be really good. I was just gonna give it a B minus as well. Like if it was a 1 and a white card, I'd give it a B, but the white knocks it slightly.
Agreed.
Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for a 2/2. It's showing on screen here as an uncommon, but I do believe it's a rare in this set. 3 mana for a 2/2.
Are you? So
I'm not sure.
I thought the way that the order of these displayed was.
Oh, you might be right.
There was 10 things that were listed as rares on this sheet.
No, you're right. No, actually, totally right about that. Yeah, this is an uncommon in this set. Okay, so Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for a 2/2. At uncommon, to confirm. Whenever another creature power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 1, and if you do, draw a card.
Yeah, and the reason you're asking that is because this used to be a rare, and it was a good rare.
Yes. That's good.
It's still good.
Still good.
There's a lot of 2 power or less creatures.
Yeah, nothing to complain about. Like a B plus?
Yeah, I was gonna say B plus.
Nice,
It's harder to justify leaving up mana and not casting things on curve, but still gonna draw a lot of cards.
Spell Snare. Single blue mana for an instant at uncommon. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 2.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, so this counters, let's say like, I don't know, 8 cards of the opponent's deck. It's really good if you have it on the draw, but like, yeah, I don't think you should play this card.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it enough.
Mystery Key. This is an interesting one. 1 and a blue for an artifact equipment at uncommon. Equip cost of 1. When the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice Mystery Key, and if you do, draw 3 cards.
That's not even optional, eh?
No, I just got sack. I mean, not like you'd want to keep it around really. I mean, sometimes yes, for being an artifact, but
yeah, I mean, I have no idea what set this card's from. It doesn't look.
It's a commander thing. So it's kind of like a flying build around or a flying synergy card.
Yeah, I guess it's 3 mana, draw 3 cards.
Right. If you can just get in a hit.
So and there's a bunch of menace stuff in this set. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, suspected key or ancestral key call has been called in chat.
Yeah, I'm warming up to it.
Yeah. If you can make this a 3 mana, draw 3 pretty consistently, like sort of how by the end of LCI, I was like, okay, I see Chart of Chorus as sort of like a card when you have a bunch of cheap flyers. I kind of see this as the same way. So, synergy, I'm gonna give like a synergy C plus, I would say, because even when you do have the deck for that, you're not always gonna be able to do the thing.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
Ooh, here's a banger. Sir Conrad the Grim. 3 black for an uncommon. It's a 5/4 legendary creature. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard. So if anybody sneezes, Sir Conrad deals grim damage. Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. It also has the ability, 1 in a black, each player puts the top card of their library into the graveyard.
Yeah, this thing, I've seen this thing only in Chaos Draft, but even there it dealt a lot of damage.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, it's very damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're the opponent, because it's like, okay, you don't really want to, like, make trades, because then I'll lose even more life, but then if I don't make trades and start attacking, they just start activating, and it's just like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. So you need a removal spell for this, or you need to be in very close range of killing them. I would give this, like, not in the A range, I think just a B.
Yeah, I was leaning B as well.
Sweet. Bishop of the Bloodstain. 3 black for a 3/3 vampire cleric at uncommon. When Bishop of the Bloodstain enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life for each vampire you control.
I don't think there's enough in this set, right?
No, this was
this is just an F.
No, this was like barely playable back in Ixalan, and that was, you had a lot of vampires in the set, so
yeah.
Agree. Another F here, Goblin Warchief. 1 red for a 2/2. Goblins you control have haste and cost 1 less to cast. And it's just a 2/2 haste for 3. Not great.
Yeah, 2 haste for 3. I don't know if it's straight up.
Sure.
I'll give it a generous D-.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. For all time's sake. Ooh, here's a cool one. Magma. 3 red for a 4/4 uncommon. It's got the ability 1, sacrifice an online permanent. Magma deals 1 damage to any target.
Yeah, this is Rise of the Eldrazi, was it?
Yeah, Rise of the Eldrazi. So, like,
yeah, it was quite good there.
The threat of activation on this card is just wild, right? Because all of your 3/3s now trade for 4/4s. If you have a clue or something lying around, it's like, okay, sure. You throw your board at their face at some point, right? Just like, sack my board, deal you 6. It's also a 5 mana 4/4 that doesn't do anything when it comes in. So there's the other side of the coin.
Right. Somewhere like a C minus.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C. I think about like the 5 mana 4/4 no ETB with a cool ability probably balances out to a C for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
60 minus.
Laid to Rest. This is 3 and a green for an enchantment at uncommon. Whenever a human you control dies, draw a card. And whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life.
Yeah, this wasn't even that good in the set that had support.
No, it was quite bad, actually. I think this is probably just an F. Like,
yeah,
you're just not going to have enough of, like, this isn't even really a set with a bunch of +1/+1 counters. So, yeah. Millstone. Classic. 2 mana, uncommon artifact. 2 tap. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into the graveyard. I heard a very quick key clack from there. I imagine that means you gave it an F very quickly. Yes. Yes, I agree. Millstone is an F. Just too slow. Ghost Quarter. Another F here. We've got just a land that taps out a colorless mana, and you can sacrifice it to destroy target land. If you do, that player goes searches for a basic. I guess it does fix yourself if you really are desperate, but no, this is not a good card.
Oh, and next one I think is another F.
Yep, Dust Mantle has a shadow, colorless land that you can pay blue to tap it and put target player mills a card. Again, just very, very slow. So yeah, I would do that in F2. Mistveil Plains. It's a tapped plains, and you can pay 1 and tap it to put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Activate this only if you control 2 or more white permanents.
Yeah, so it's the Sam Black card.
Yeah, it's the Sam Black card. We finally got to the Sam Black card of the set. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the upside's worth it coming in tapped, so it probably just means it's an F.
I have this as an F as well.
Monologue Tax. Enchantment at rare. 2 and a white. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. Nope, commander card. This is an F.
Yeah, notably though, we were doing the uncommons and we are now on the rares. So the 1.56% of the time, your packs will have one of these 10 cards.
Yes, that's a good call out. Ranger Captain of Eos. This one's a mythic. 1 white for a 3/3 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less, or I guess mana value is what they call that these days. Mana value 1 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And you can also sacrifice Ranger Captain of Eos. Your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn.
Yeah, so you really want, like, it's really just Thraben Inspector at common that this thing's searching up.
Yeah.
I guess like there's the Maverick, the green one, But there's a couple in there.
Just a
But
few. Yeah, if you're playing
you
black
need,
white, like the 1/1 menace black creature is not like terrible.
yeah, like if you hit a target with this, it's going to feel great. But even a 3/3 for 3 is not terrible.
No, yeah, totally. And like you're not often going to be activating that last ability, but sometimes you're like, well, I have exactly lethal if my opponent doesn't have like a destroy target attacking creature kind of card, right? So yeah, you want to give it a B plus?
I think I'm going to go B plus.
Cool. Yeah, agree. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, 1 blue, blue, blue for a Jace Planeswalker at rare, 4 loyalty, and it's got the Laboratory Maniac, Thassa's Oracle. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. 2 abilities, +1. Target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. You draw a card. And -8, draw 7 cards. Then, if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. Kind of seems redundant, but that's just if Jace has exactly 8 loyalty and you activate it, you don't lose the game because Jace is no longer on the battlefield. So, basically, like 4 mana, 4 loyalty Planeswalker that upticks, fuels your grave, and draws a card each turn.
Yeah, this one's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good Planeswalker.
Like another B plus.
Yeah, of course, you know, the whole triple blue thing. Make sure you have 11 blue sources somewhere in there. But yeah, it's a pretty good Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Ixidor, Reality Sculptor. This is a 3 blue blue 3/4 at rare. Face down creatures get +1/+1, and this card's so old that that's symmetrical. They
Both players.
players, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 3 and a blue. Turn target face down creature face up.
Including, you can even do theirs if you want to do it.
Yeah, if you really want to. This is a no, right?
This would have been good if it was one-sided, but as is, I think it's enough.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Another F here, Mass Hysteria, single red mana, enchantment at rare. All creatures have haste. No, just more symmetrical stuff. Not great.
Mm-hmm.
Molten Psyche, 1 red for a sorcery at rare. Each player shuffles the cards from their hand into their library, then draws that many cards. If you have Metalcraft, though, which is if you control 3 or more artifacts, Molten Psyche deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards that player has drawn this turn.
I think this is another F.
Yep, just another F. You're going down a card to do this, and your opponent is not. World Spine Worm, Mythic, 8, green, 11 mana, 15/15 trample. When it dies, you make 3 5/5 worm tokens.
So this is the thing you got to mill with that triple blue one thing that you make a copy of. Then, like,
And you have to do it on the stack too, because sorry, I didn't read this part out. But also says when World Spine Worm is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I
It
don't
is an
think
instant though. So
it is an instant.
It would work.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many dreams to be had with this one. So
No,
give this one
another
an
F.
F. This one, okay. So now we're getting to the where Mark was mentioning. There's differences in the arena packs and in the paper packs. 3 cards that have been swapped out on arena. We're gonna talk about the arena ones first. Smuggler's Copter is coming to arena. 2 mana, 2 generic mana for a 3/3 vehicle at rare. It's got flying, and whenever it attacks or blocks, you can discard a card or draw a card. And if you discard a card, and has crew 1. So just the vanilla test this vehicle basically quickly. 2 mana for 3/3 flyer, crew 1. Good, great even, and looting each time this gets into combat. Fantastic.
Yeah, like this is probably just an A plus.
Yeah, this is like one of the best.
So good.
Might be the best first pick in the set. You know, just colorless colored. Yeah, I'll give it an A, not an A plus, but
Okay. It won't ever get a grade, so we'll never be able to compare that anyway.
yeah, exactly. I don't even really want to read this whole card out because I know it's not going to be a card that we're going to play, but I will. Possibility Storm, 3 red enchantment at rare. Basically, what it amounts to is whenever a player casts a spell, they cast a random spell from their deck instead. And yeah, that's it. All right, that's an F.
Easy F. Yep.
Evolutionary Leap, 1 and a green for an enchantment at rare. It's got an ability green and sacrifice a creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
Yeah. No, I mean, damage doesn't stack, so this is really just protecting you from removal. So this card's not very good.
No, you can like, if you've got like tokens or something, yeah, there's ways to like get value out of it, but it's pretty hard to do so. So it's not quite an F, but like a D minus, like a good sideboard card against somebody with a lot of removal. Yeah. Okay, and then these are the paper ones we're gonna get to now. Baleful Mastery, 3 and a black for an instant at rare. You may pay 1 and a black rather than pay the spell's mana cost. And if you do, your opponent draws a card. Exile target creature or planeswalker. So 4 mana, exile something. If you cast for 2, you need to do it in response to like a combat trick or something. Pay it for 2. They draw a card as well.
Yeah, I think this is worse in this set than it was in Strixhaven. I was going to say like B-.
Yeah, that's fine. This is B-, just solid removal spell. Cavalier of Thorns. This is 2 green for a 5/6 reach creature. It's a mythic. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land from among them onto the battlefield and the rest in the grave, and then when Cavalier of Thorns dies, you can exile it, and if you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of your library.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that like the 3 rares that they chose to replace, like Baleful Mastery and Cavalier of Thorns, are actually playable.
Yeah.
And they kept all the Fs in.
Like why?
I don't really get it, but okay. Cavalier of Thorns, though, it's very good.
Yeah, very good. Triple green, of course, guy can take that in consideration. But if you can cast it, it's like an A- level card. I'd say A.
Yeah, I was gonna say A-.
Yeah, just
okay.
Huge, gives you value. And then here's one that I know a lot of people are lamenting the loss of this one on Arena. Death Cloud. X black for a sorcery at rare. Each player loses X life, discards X cards, sacrifices X creatures, and then sacrifices X lands.
Yeah, constructed All-Star back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Even playable in Modern at some point. Not very good in Limited, though, I don't think.
No, you have to have some way to break the symmetry on this. I think it's just a little too hard for a card that is just really bad if you aren't capable to do that. So give it an F2. Although that's the Dreamer's F. All right, now we're getting to a special portion. So it's weird. This is basically just like an extension of the list called Special Guests, but you'll notice that they all have nice art. They have very new and beautiful art. So we'll get through these. Drown in the Loch is the first one. Blue-black for an instant. You can choose one. Either counter target spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard, or destroy target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard.
Yeah, so certainly worse in a set with Collect Evidence.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. And
I don't think this thing's very good.
It was really, really good in Eldraine, but you had a lot of cards
I've heard.
A lot of cards that milled the opponent, right? And you're not going to have basically any of that. So I don't think it's unplayable. I think it's still fine.
I think it's like close-ish.
I wouldn't say so. I think that this turns into like what's it called? I mean, Smother or whatever, 2 mana kill a 3 mana value thing pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess you can. I mean, you can spend 4 mana and kill a disguised creature.
Sure, yeah.
Always,
yeah, because that's a great point. It has no mana value. That's kind of funny.
All right, you talked me up to a D+, but I'm not going any higher than that.
I'll give it a C. Give it a C. But yeah, we're probably not even, like I said, probably not gonna get 17 land stats for this, right? Because like they're just not gonna be played in enough numbers. Ghostly Prison up next. 1 and a white for an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. You ever played with this card in Limited?
In Limited, I've played against it, and it's like more annoying than it seems.
Right? Yeah.
Because it doesn't do anything. Like you're down a card, but it does really slow the game down. Right,
especially if your opponent's just like attacking with a bunch of tokens like that. That's really punishing because the aggro deck doesn't want to draw more than like 5 lands, and if they, then they can only attack with 2 things at each turn if that's the case. So it really stops the opponent from like attacking and double spelling or casting a removal spell and getting in for a big hit.
Or combat tricks. Like combat tricks become so obvious because you pay less than what you could.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do think it's actually a pretty good controlling card, but yeah, it's like a control deck C+ or something.
Okay, I was just gonna give it a C-.
Yeah, fair enough. Fabricate, quick F here. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. There's no artifacts in this set that are worth spending an additional 3 mana to go get, so no thank you. Another F here, show and tell. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Each player puts a artifact, creature, enchantment, or land from their hand onto the battlefield. Just way too symmetrical. Live the dream with World Spine Worm, but this is an F.
Yeah.
Tragic Slip. Here's a decent one. Single black mana for an instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. But Morbid, if a creature died this turn, that creature gets -13/-13 instead.
Yeah, so this one's actually interesting and like worth spending more than a millisecond on.
Yeah,
because it's pretty good.
pretty good. It is, but it's also less good than it might read. Because
Right.
yeah, if you haven't,
You're not really killing anything for -1, and the Morbid is harder to turn on than you would think.
right, exactly. You have to like get into a combat, and it's like, okay, maybe I attack with something and they block, and then I kind of use it as a bone splinters, or a trade happens and I kill their biggest thing. So it's good. You can set it up, but it's not just like awesome premium removal spell. I'd give it a C.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah, C for Tragic Slip. Here's a cool one. Victimize. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature, and if you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, so again, all these black cards, there's like a lot of reanimate in this set,
Mhm.
and there's also a lot of collect evidence,
Mhm.
which is it's weird, but
Yeah.
I know this card has potential. I have not played with or against this card, but I know it was good.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Even just like, getting back your 2 best things that have traded off in the game, and then sacking like a 2/2, or sack like, you have some self mill, you mill something good, or you cycle a Topiary Panther to get that in the grave. So it's actually a pretty good card. Like, I would play this just straight up in my black decks. I don't think there's a black deck I would cut it from.
So C+?
Yeah, I was gonna go like B-, honestly, because I think there's a potential like really huge mana advantage. But yeah, good card. Gamble. Single red mana, sorcery. Search your library for a card, and you discard a card at random. So Demonic Tutor,
F.
but you might discard it. Yeah, this is an F.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is not. Tireless Tracker. 2 and a green for a 3/2 Human Scout. Landfall, you make a clue. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker.
Yeah, this card is good enough to be played in cubes.
Yep.
And very powerful, even in modern at some point. So
Yep.
so very, very good.
A?
It's probably just an A.
Yeah, I'd give an A to Tireless Tracker. Great card. Another great card, Crashing Footfalls. This is a sorcery with Suspend 4 for a single green mana. So if you haven't seen Suspend before, what this means is you pay green rather than the spell. The spell doesn't have a mana cost, actually. This is the only way to cast it. So you pay green, you put it in exile with 4 time counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter. And then when the last time counter is removed, you can cast this without paying its mana cost. So if you cast this on turn 1, you're going to get it like on turn 5, basically. You make 2 4/4 green rhino creature tokens with trample.
And somehow those 2 massive rhinos leave no evidence behind.
Yeah. Peculiar, yeah. Very good card, though.
Yeah, I know this is, it's a modern deck, but I have never this was another like Modern Masters type card, wasn't it? Something like that?
Yep, this is in Modern Horizons 2 or 1. Yeah, Modern Horizons 1. It was a good card in that format. It's a little awkward as a top deck if you draw it in turn like 7 or whatever, but the times you have this in your opening hand, like you're gonna win. The opening hand win rate on this card, if we get those numbers, is gonna be just absurd. So I would give this one a B+.
A B+?
Yeah.
I'll go A-.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you just win if this is.
Oh, nice, sweet. And the last card here is probably not gonna get it there. Field of the Dead. Enter the battlefield tapped. Add colorless mana. If you have 7 differently named lands, when you play a land, you make a 2/2 zombie creature token.
Yeah, there's not even a common dual land cycle
Right.
here, so this has just got to be enough.
Yep.
Right?
Agree.
Yeah.
And there we have it. That's it. That's all of our cards. We are done our set review for Murders at Karlov Manor. So, final thoughts here.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about our timing there, but we really did fly through those list cards, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In summary, I think I alluded to this at the beginning of today's review, but I'm really pleased with what they did with the rares. Like, I know because they were planning on printing more rares, they consciously scaled back on the power level a little bit.
Mhm.
And I really hope they continue to do that, because my perfect grade for all the rares would be like B+, A- range.
Right.
And we gave a lot of those grades today. So I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to playing this set. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and can't wait to dive into it next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know just quick aside about play boosters. I know there's been a lot of like hesitation, a lot of worry about like, oh, we're gonna be playing with 4 rares per pack or whatever. Yeah, it's a possibility, but it's very unlikely. And when I first heard that they were making these changes, I imagine it would be something like this, where yeah, they scale back the power of the rares on average, so that sure, you might open 2 rares, but they're not going to be game breaking rares. They're going to be good and appealing, but you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, there's dream trawlers just running around all everywhere, right? So yeah, I'm also really excited about this. Like we were talking about this before the show, but this set, I think it's gonna be a good one. Like if I were a betting man, I'd put money on this one. You know, like this one has a lot going on that I think is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah. Totally agree. I'm really looking forward to it, and no early access this time, so we do have to wait until Tuesday to get to see it in a digital form. But to anyone going to pre-release this weekend, best of luck, and hopefully these reviews helped you out.
Yeah, of course. That's I echo that sentiment very much so. And I also will, for anybody just wanting more content, I'm also going to put out a quick like tips, tricks, and traps video for people going to pre-release. I did that last time with Ixalan. People really liked that. So if I guess if you got to the end of the set review, this isn't too much content for you. But if you do want a little bit more, or you just happen to be catching the end of this as you're watching it on Twitch, there will be condensed versions. Also, I'm doing my set overview in a few days. So if the full 7-hour set review is a little too much for you, don't worry. Well, we got you covered. I think
but
with
then
that,
they won't hear this.
Yeah, exactly. Then they won't hear this. So that's gonna do it. Mark, as I always say, thank you so much for coming on. The people love Mark. The children yearn for more Mark. So you'll always be my
careful how you phrase that.
phrasing, Alex. Yeah. But thank you so much for everybody watching, listening. We will see you next time, and good luck in your first games. Bye, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye.